Chapter 45-24. Kong Shinmu's demon god royal bloodline was suppressed and hidden by the divine dragon bloodline. Even the supreme divine dragon could not sense it. After all, the demon god ancestor and the black dragon's consciousness were hiding him. Therefore, these void demonic creatures naturally could not sense it. But Xueqi's demon god royal aura was extremely obvious to these void demonic creatures. It was as bright as the sun. It was not because their perception was strong, but because in their bloodline, they were destined to be loyal to the demon god royal family. Therefore, they were extremely sensitive to the demon god royal bloodline. At this time, they were like bodyguards, surrounding Kong Shinmu and Xueqi to protect them. The group of void demonic creatures was a little puzzled. Why would a dragon warrior send the little princess of the demon god royal family back? But their intelligence was not high. They only knew to respect the little princess and did not think much about anything else. There should be royal guards of the demon god race hiding near the void fissure. The demon god ancestor's consciousness told Kong Shinmu, "Go wait nearby. Someone will come to receive you soon. When the demon god race warriors come, they will take the little princess away." Kong Shinmu nodded. They were near the void fissure. He had already passed through the place where the supreme boundary had been. The supreme boundary that had blocked off the void demonic creatures a year ago was now completely broken. It was scattered around the void fissure and had lost all its defensive functions. As he got closer to the void fissure, he found more and more void demonic creatures. So many void demonic creatures. There are even many powerful demon commander level existences. I'm afraid no one in the Dragon Martial continent will go near the void fissure. Even Yu Yaji and the other deans will be in danger if they come here. But why didn't the demon god race let these void demonic creatures gather and attack the Dragon Martial continent? Kong Shinmu was still a little puzzled. He found that the void demonic creatures near the void fissure numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Even if this number crushed the Dragon Martial fortress, it would not be able to withstand it. But the demon god ancestor quickly told him, "You're oversimplifying things. The reason there are so many void aberrations guarding this place is to guard against other races in the chaotic battlefield. If they gather and attack together, once someone in the chaotic battlefield discovers this crack and enters, no one will be able to stop them." Jiang Shenwu nodded his head, not really understanding. In fact, he had never been to the chaos battlefield, so he didn't know what the situation was like there and what the positions of the various races were. Therefore, he couldn't judge the situation. Right now, he could only do his best to do what he had to do, and then cultivate to improve his strength. He brought Xueqi with him, and soon, they were less than 100 kilometers away from the void crack. In this place, he raised his head to look at the crack in the void. It was as if he was looking at an endless abyss. It was filled with the aura of the void, and even the power of space in the surrounding area was somewhat chaotic. Because of this, the space-time formation here could not be used. Even the instant magic ring was affected, unable to be activated. Only Kong Shinmu's wind shadow flowing cloud flash could be used for a short distance. Kong Shinmu stayed where he was with Xueqi. There was a demon general and dozens of powerful demons at the level of demon general surrounding them, protecting them. These void demons were very conflicted. They were unconditionally obedient to the royal family of the demon god race, but they were naturally hostile to the dragon warriors of the dragon god race. Now they really wanted to attack Kong Shinmu, but because of Xueqi's presence, they didn't dare to act rashly. Such conflicting emotions made the void aberrations feel like they were being tortured. After waiting for a while, Kong Shinmu suddenly realized that the void in front of him had a ripple that was like water. The ripple spread out, and a black figure appeared in the center. This black figure had a small pattern of a 16-winged heavenly demon god embroidered on his black robe. This was the royal guard of the demon god race. They were loyal to the 16-winged heavenly demon god royal family of the demon god race. When this black-robed figure appeared, Kong Shinmu didn't even know whether he was a man or a woman. He only felt that his aura was extremely terrifying, and it was very likely that he had reached the level of Yu Yaji, the super divine dragon. This level was known as the demon god in the demon god race. And above the demon god was the supreme level of existence. The supreme demon god corresponded to the level of the dragon warriors, which was the supreme divine dragon. Your subordinate, Mo Dao, greets the princess. The black figure's somewhat hoarse voice came out. Mo Dao was the same as Xueqi's previous guard, Mo Feng. They were both royal guards of the demon god race. Ask my father to send someone to pick me up, Xueqi said somewhat reluctantly. She sat on the neck of Kong Shinmu's divine dragon, hugging a dragon scale in her hands. She felt that she was about to be separated from Kong Shinmu, and she didn't know when they would meet again. She suddenly felt a little sad. Yes, Mo Dao responded, and then his entire person disappeared from the void. No one knew where he went. In short, this was the last time Kong Shinmu and Xueqi would spend together. You have to keep these 3 demonic weapons well. If you lose even one of them, the next time we meet, this princess will not forgive you, Xueqi said with a snort. Okay. Kong Shinmu kept the 3 demonic weapons well. The void-ripping void magic blade, instant magic ring, and sky-imprisoning demon pearl each had their own powerful effects. To Kong Shinmu, they could save his life at critical moments. That's right, I'll get someone to send you a few high-grade desolate god demonic skills. When you have nothing to do, you can cultivate them. If you want to marry me openly, your demonic skill cultivation cannot be too low. Those are definitely the special demonic skills of the royal family. If you can't cultivate them well, there's no need to see me again. Xueqi continued, I'll get Mo Dao to send you the demonic skills later. Right now, we don't have them with us. Hearing this, Kong Shinmu felt a little distressed. After all, if he always stayed in the Dragon Martial continent, where would he get the opportunity to cultivate the demonic skills? Once he was discovered cultivating the demonic skills, it would be a huge problem. Of course, even if he did not have the opportunity normally, he could still find one. To him, this was not too big of a problem. When Mo Dao sends you the demonic skills, they will also send you some ancient demon god blood. These are refined with the help of heavenly treasures, and they can increase the grade of your demon god race's bloodline. Xueqi continued. The bloodline of a 16-winged heavenly demon god was equivalent to the Dragon King's grade. In the demon god race, it was called the Demon King. After the Demon King was the Demon Emperor, and after that was the Demon God grade, which was equivalent to the Super Divine Dragon. Therefore, Kong Shinmu's current grade of the Demon God bloodline was the first level of the Demon King. Chapter 45-25. Now, Kong Shinmu had the void-ripping void magic blade, the sky-imprisoning demon pearl, and the instant magic ring. These 3 desolate god demonic weapons were equivalent to divine dragon weapons. As for the cultivation resources of the desolate god demonic techniques and the demonic god's blood, he would have to ask the demon Dao to bring them over later. Kong Shinmu accompanied Xueqi near the void fissure for 3 days and 3 nights. The two were rather lovey-dovey, but it was finally time to part ways. You go first. If the demon god royal family sees you, I'm afraid they won't let you go so easily. In the end, Xueqi could only let Kong Shinmu leave first. Take care. Kong Shinmu nodded. If the demon Dao comes, your instant magic ring will receive the message. Come out and meet him, and he will give you the item. Xueqi gave him one last instruction. Then, Kong Shinmu took out the instant magic ring and used his 16-winged heavenly demon royal bloodline to activate the void array within. The instant magic ring needed to unlock different layers of the array according to the distance traveled. Xueqi had previously unlocked 3 layers of the array. Now, Kong Shinmu had also unlocked 3 layers. If he did not travel with Xueqi, those mindless void demons would attack Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu could not withstand the attack of those void demons. So he could only rely on the instant magic ring to travel closer to the martial dragon fortress. As the void array was unlocked layer by layer, Kong Shinmu looked deeply at Xueqi. This girl had a special meaning to him. In the past, many dragon martial artists were interested in him, but he had never accepted them. Even Xueqi, it was only because of an accident, and because of the black dragon consciousness in his body that they were able to be together. No matter what, Kong Shinmu would never give up on Xueqi. Sooner or later, he would go to the demon god race to find her. The power of the instant magic ring was activated. Then, Kong Shinmu was transported alone to a space extremely far away from the void fissure. Millions of miles away. Kong Shinmu appeared in the void, putting away the instant magic ring. He turned around and saw that the crack in the void was there, as if it would never change. I hope she's well. Now that she has returned safely, I believe the demon god race will not place so much importance on the martial dragon continent, right? Kong Shinmu thought. He didn't stay there for long. He quickly flew in the direction of the martial dragon fortress. Right now, the most important thing for him to do was to see what the situation was like in the martial dragon fortress, as well as how his old friends were doing. This year's academy tournament was almost over. Kong Shinmu still needed to know about Ran Ran and the other situation. Martial Dragon Fortress. When Kong Shinmu returned, he sensed some chaos in the Martial Dragon Fortress. It sounded like someone had died. The corpses of Chu Qingyun and his 3 dragon martial artists were found in a crack in the void. It seemed as if they had been torn to shreds by void demons, and they hadn't even been able to send out a distress signal. Their corpses had already been brought back. After all, 3 days had passed since Kong Shinmu had killed them. But now, everyone believed that they had died to void demons. After all, the way they had died was very obvious. Moreover, in the Martial Dragon Fortress, other than void demons, who would be so ruthless to them? After Kong Shinmu returned to the Martial Dragon Fortress, he listened to the discussions of the people around him. His face didn't reveal the slightest expression. 4 Donghuang Yongwu College students had been killed in one go. This was a huge matter in the Martial Dragon Fortress. Even if the 4 were not students of Donghuang Yongwu College, as long as they were experts at the level of the Dragon Emperor, it would be a huge matter. Generally speaking, the situation was stable now, and void demons would not recklessly attack the Martial Dragon Fortress. Under such circumstances, it was rare for Dragon Emperor experts to die. Even if there were, it would be an extremely small number. For 4 Dragon Emperor to be killed in one go, it was most likely a powerful expert among the void demons. Only a demon commander level expert would be able to kill Chu Qingyun and the other 3 so easily. This matter had caused quite a stir. On the side of Donghuang Yongwu College, many dragon martial artists were panicking. For the time being, they didn't dare to leave the Martial Dragon Fortress to hunt void demons. Kong Shinmu didn't care about this matter. Instead, he headed for the office of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Soon, he saw Ran Ran, Xiao Yuhua, Xiao Bai, and Liang Xiao. Kong Shinmu. When she saw Kong Shinmu, Xiao Yuhua had a look of pleasant surprise on her face as she hurriedly came up to him. Liang Xiao even came up to Kong Shinmu and gave him a hug. It wasn't easy for the 4 of them to meet again. Xiao Yuhua brought him to the place she had bought in the Martial Dragon Fortress. It was a courtyard built around the office of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Many students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy had bought courtyards here. They could rest and cultivate here. There was also a protective array to ensure their safety. They also didn't need to return to the headquarters of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy every time. The 4 of them returned to the courtyard that Xiao Yuhua had bought. A Divine Dragon Guardian array rose around the courtyard. This was a protective array constructed by a Divine Dragon Dean. Ordinary Dragon Emperors wouldn't be able to pass through it. It could be said to be an absolutely safe place in the Martial Dragon Fortress. After entering the courtyard, Xiao Yuhua personally brewed tea for everyone before they started chatting. Kong Shinmu, where have you been for the past year? Ran Ran said that you were training in the Martial Dragon continent. How are the results? Liang Xiao asked with excitement. Over the past year, he had made great progress. Originally, he had just broken through to the 8th level of the Dragon King and reached the 1st level of the Rebirth Tribulation Realm. But now, he had already reached the 3rd level of the Rebirth Tribulation Realm with Divine Dragon Blood at the level of the Dragon Emperor. Moreover, he had also exchanged for a Rising Dragon Marrow and cultivated the Dragon Blood Meteor Explosion technique to the Saint level. He had also exchanged for a Holy Spiritual Dragon Weapon. Currently, he couldn't unleash its full power, but it had already doubled his combat power. These were all things that Kong Shinmu had exchanged for demon hunting points with the demonic cores of the demon commanders and demon generals. My results are all right, I guess. Kong Shinmu smiled. During this period, I have made some progress. I'm at the 9th level of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm, and the grade of my blood has reached the 8th level of the Dragon King. Compared to you guys, it seems like my progress is mediocre. Of course. Xiao Yuhua grumbled. The demon hunting points can be exchanged for a lot of cultivation resources. You're training alone in the Martial Dragon continent. How much progress can you make? On the other hand, we've improved a lot because of the demonic cores you gave us. There are still a lot of demon hunting points left for you. You can exchange them for a holy spiritual dragon weapon. Xiaobai covered her mouth and said with a smile. Just nice. Kong Xinmu was relieved to hear that. It seemed that Xiao Yuhua and the others were still thinking of him. Chapter 45-26. The Great Desolate Devil Sweeping Sword and the Dragon's Car Blood Pendant were lost. Although Jiang Shenwu had obtained 3 demonic weapons, these 3 Rage God demonic weapons obviously could not be used in the Martial Dragon Fortress. Therefore, he needed a new dragon weapon. What did you experience in the past year? Hearing that Kong Xinmu's Great Desolate Demon Sweeping Sword and Dragon Scar Blood Pendant had been destroyed, Liang Xiao was in disbelief. These 2 dragon weapons were destroyed? That's too scary. To think that someone could destroy your dragon weapon in the Dragon Martial Continent. Unbelievable. I've experienced many dangerous situations in the past year. It was very exciting. Kong Xinmu smiled. Liang Xiao, I can bring you with me next time and let you experience it. No, please don't. Liang Xiao scratched his head and laughed. I only have one treasure here, the divine dragon weapon. I don't dare to mess around like you. If it's destroyed, I'll be crying. The ascending dragon marrow and the divine dragon weapon were exchanged for the demonic cores that Kong Xinmu had given him. They were very precious. How could it be so easy to obtain the demonic cores of ordinary demon generals and demon commanders? Especially now that the void monsters were basically holed up and rarely came out to roam outside. The harvest of the entire Martial Dragon Fortress had been very low recently. Sometimes they could hunt 1 or 2 superior demon spirits, and that was already a good harvest. Although there were many dragon martial practitioners gathered in the Martial Dragon Fortress, many of the Dragon Emperor had already returned to the Dragon Martial Continent. Because there were no void demons to hunt. If they couldn't kill any void monsters, they wouldn't be able to earn demon hunting points and exchange them for cultivation resources that were useful to them. Forget Holy Spirit level dragon weapons or dragon martial techniques. Even some ordinary origin dragon martial techniques were difficult for them to exchange for. The happiest time to earn demon hunting points was before the supreme barrier was broken. The entire void crevice would be attacked by demonic creatures once a month, and many people would gain a lot from it. After the Martial Dragon Fortress was built, the dragon martial practitioners could obtain less and less. By the way, have you passed this year's academy competition? How are your results? Kong Xinmu asked. All 4 of us have entered Tianxian district. Xiao Yuhua smiled and said, actually, everyone has made great progress this year. If it weren't for the magic pills you gave us, we wouldn't have been able to break through to the level of Tianxian. Based on our strength, before the expansion of the academy, we would have been in the top 10. But now, we are still at the bottom of Tianxian district. Well, as long as we can enter Tianxian district. Kong Xinmu nodded. They were improving, and others were also improving. Even with his devil core, Xiao Yuhua and the others were only improving a little faster than others. Of course, this little bit was the key to them breaking through to the Tianxian area. Otherwise, most of the dragon martial practitioners would not have made any progress this year. Although they had become stronger, their ranking in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy was still not up. This was because everyone's strength was improving. In a year, breaking through 1 level of cultivation was the most basic. Some of the Dragon Emperor level powerhouses could even break through 1 level of the Dragon Emperor's blood essence. For example, Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai were already 1 step ahead. Now they had used their demon hunting points to exchange for cultivation resources and raised their Dragon Emperor's blood essence to the 2nd level. When the Divine Dragon's blood essence reached the Dragon Emperor level, every increase in level would bring great changes, even more than the increase of 1 level of cultivation. So now, Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai's strength was still a level higher than Ran Ran and Liang Xiao. Among them, their Phoenix Dance of the 9 Heavens and Heaven-Breaking Ice Slash had already reached the Saint level, and they had broken through the Rising Dragon Marrow. In addition, they had each obtained a Divine Dragon weapon. In the past year, they had basically been familiarizing themselves with the Divine Dragon weapon. Ran Ran, since you are all in the Tianxian area, remember to help me look for information when you have time. Kong Xinmu said, let's go exchange for the Divine Dragon weapon first. Kong Xinmu now needed a Divine Dragon weapon with strong attack power. It would be best if it had some Divine Dragon formations and could use the Divine Dragon formations to launch attacks. His combat strength was very strong now, there was no doubt about it. But he still had his original weakness, which was his weak attack power. If he had a strong divine dragon weapon, he would be able to solve his current predicament. The four of them went to the Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Academy office, planning to exchange for the divine dragon weapon. Although Kong Xinmu had not been back for a year, many students in the Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Academy still knew him. Moreover, the Dragon Emperor's teacher in the office was the beauty in the red dress, Linghu Dai. Hey Kong Xinmu, what a rare guest. Linghu Dai was still as charming and elegant as ever. When Kong Xinmu saw her again, he felt a ripple in his heart and immediately lowered his head. Originally, when facing a woman like Linghu Dai, he could be completely focused. But ever since he had a closer relationship with Xueqi near the dragon ceiling abyss, he felt a little emotional when he saw Linghu Dai again. Without a doubt, in terms of appearance and figure, Linghu Dai was not inferior to Xueqi. She even had a sense of maturity that Xueqi did not have. But Kong Xinmu knew that it was wrong of him to think about this. He quickly lowered his head and threw these thoughts out of his mind. I'm here to exchange for a divine dragon weapon. After Kong Xinmu finished speaking, Linghu Dai brought him to where the divine dragon weapon was stored with a faint smile. It was a small storeroom in the Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Academy. As it stored more precious items, only the person who wanted to exchange for it could enter. No one else could follow. Kong Xinmu could only follow Linghu Dai alone. Xiao Yuhua and the other two could only wait outside. Divine dragon weapons are the same as ordinary dragon weapons. They are divided into 4 grades: human, earth, dragon, and heaven. We do not have heaven-grade divine dragon weapons here. As for dragon grade, we only have one. It is considered the Academy's treasure. It is impossible for us to exchange for it with you. You can choose between human-grade and earth-grade divine dragon weapons. Of course, the demon hunting points needed to exchange for an earth-grade divine dragon weapon is 5 times that of a human-grade divine dragon weapon. Linghu Dai explained. In that case, I can only exchange for a human-grade divine dragon weapon. Kong Xinmu said with a smile. But he was not picky. After all, no matter what grade the divine dragon weapon was, it was stronger than his great desolate demon sweeping sword. No, the demon hunting points you have now are just enough to exchange for an earth-grade divine dragon weapon. Linghu Dai narrowed her eyes and said in a soft voice, although I do not know how you did it, the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang, Dragon Emperor Yan, and your friends have all agreed to leave an earth-grade divine dragon weapon for you to choose when you return. Chapter 45-27. He did not expect that the demon hunting points they left for him could be used to exchange for an earth-grade divine dragon weapon. In fact, he did not care much about the grade of the divine dragon weapon. As long as it was usable and had strong offensive capabilities, it was fine. Currently, he had 3 Rage God demonic weapons that were equivalent to heaven-grade Holy Spirit dragon weapons. The Sky-imprisoning demon orb, the Void-ripping void demon blade, and the instant demon ring. Each of them was worth at least 10 Earth-grade Holy Spirit dragon weapons. It was just that he could not use them in Martial Dragon Fortress. Of course, having an Earth-grade divine dragon weapon was naturally better than having a human-grade one. Xiao Yuhua and the others only exchanged for human-grade divine dragon weapons, but they left me an Earth-grade one. Kong Xinmu was somewhat touched. He had given out a lot of demon hunting points before, but this Earth-grade divine dragon weapon alone took up at least 30 to 40% of it. In addition, Ran had given him so many cultivation resources. It was equivalent to him taking up half of it. The other 4, plus Great Liang Dragon Emperor and Dragon Emperor Yan took a small portion of it, added up to only half. Actually, I really don't need it. Kong Xinmu sighed inwardly. He still had 30 Demon General Demon Cores and 7 Demon Commander Demon Cores. If these Demon Cores were exchanged for Demon Hunting Points, how many Demon Hunting Points would it be? But he could not use these Demon Cores to exchange for Demon Hunting Points. Because if that was the case, it would be too suspicious. He would temporarily keep these magic pills to use to heal his injuries. He had already tried before. Demon Cores were the same as Monster Cores. He could devour them to heal his injuries. If Kong Xinmu completely devoured a Demon General Demon Core, he could completely heal any injury within 3 breaths. This was the healing effect of the Demon Core. After all, Kong Xinmu not only had the power of devouring, but he also had the ancient demon god bloodline of a 16-winged heavenly demon god. For the demon god race, demon cores were originally a holy healing medicine. But now, with the support of Kong Shinmu's devouring power, the healing effect was even better. Under Linghu Dai-er's guidance, Kong Shinmu began to choose his earthen divine spirit dragon weapon. Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy had a total of 4 Earth-class divine spiritual dragon weapons. These 4 Earth-level Saint spiritual dragon weapons were extremely precious. Initially, the unparalleled Divine Dragon had placed a total of 7 Earth-level Saint spiritual dragon weapons in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. Up until now, 3 had been chosen, and they had all been exchanged for by the strong cultivators who had made great contributions during the attack of the demonic creatures. Needless to say, Kong Shinmu also knew that one was most likely Feng Ligei's, and the other was Gu Yuxing's. As for who had exchanged for the last one, Kong Shinmu couldn't guess. But this had nothing to do with him. No matter who it was, the other party's strength was definitely much stronger than Kong Shinmu's. However, he had received news that the 2 girls, Feng Ligei and Gu Yuxing, had already broken through to the 5th level due to the inherited blood essence of the Dragon Emperor. They now had the status of the Dragon Emperor's mentor in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, and were no longer students. Because of this, there were 2 vacancies in the Divine Center District, and all the students' rankings were automatically moved up by 2 places. It was said that if it wasn't for this, it would be difficult for Liang Xiao to break through to the Jade District. Now, he was ranked last in the Jade District. If he didn't work hard, he might be eliminated in the next academy tournament. Because of this, Liang Xiao was under a lot of pressure. In comparison, Ran Ran was much more stable. After all, she cultivated a body-refining dragon martial technique. Especially after exchanging for the rising dragon marrow, she had also cultivated the dark dragon filth controlling art to the divine level. The saint-level dark dragon filth controlling art's recovery speed could be said to have reached an extremely terrifying level. It even had a special effect, which could condense the dark dragon's energy around the body to block attacks. After cultivating the high-grade source dragon martial technique to the sacred tier, it actually had an extremely strong defensive ability. Coupled with her heaven tier chaotic dragon body, her current defense was already extremely strong. Moreover, she cultivated the high-grade source dragon martial technique, the Dark Phoenix Heart exterminating art. Her offensive ability was also very strong. At the very least, it would not be a problem for her to stand firm in the Jade District. What are the types of the remaining 4 Earth-level holy spiritual dragon weapons? Kong Shinmu asked Linghu Dai-er. 2 offensive ones, 2 defensive ones. Linghu Dai-er smiled. Do you want the offensive one or the defensive one? The offensive one, and it's best if it completely forgoes defense. Kong Shinmu said. The holy spiritual dragon weapons contained many engraved battle runes. These runes had different effects, and they would amplify different dragon martial techniques. They could even inscribe some dragon martial runes. When the dragon martial runes were activated, it was equivalent to directly using a dragon martial technique. This was extremely rare, and it was much stronger than ordinary dragon weapons. Then, how about this snow wind dragon stone? Linghu Dai-er stretched out her slender hand and took out a wooden box from a bronze cabinet. After opening the wooden box, a gust of wind and snow surged out. Kong Shinmu felt as if he was immediately placed in a world of ice and snow. Snow wind dragon stone? Kong Shinmu went forward to take a look, and soon discovered that there were a total of 108 battle runes in the Snow Wind Dragon Stone. The number of battle runes was not too many, but the key point was that these 108 battle runes were all offensive battle runes. When added together, they could add the power of wind and snow to the dragon martial technique of a dragon martial artist, more than doubling its power. And most importantly, there was a dragon martial rune engraved in the Snow Wind Dragon Stone. Dragon martial rune, Snowstorm. This was equivalent to a dragon martial technique being engraved in the stone. Snowstorm was a holy spiritual dragon martial technique. Although it was only the elementary divine spirit dragon martial technique, it was already very good for Jiang Shenwu to be able to use such a divine spirit dragon martial technique without cultivating it. Of course, this Snow Wind Dragon Stone did not have any defensive or speed runes. For many dragon martial artists, it was not strong enough, so they gave up on it. But for Kong Shinmu, it was just right. With the Snow Wind Dragon Stone, he could completely make up for his disadvantage in terms of offense. Let me take a look at the other one. Kong Shinmu had not made up his mind yet, so he decided to take a look at the other one. But soon, he found another Earth-level holy spiritual dragon weapon. It contained 188 battle runes, but it did not have a dragon martial rune. In other words, it could not be used to activate a dragon martial technique. Among the 188 battle runes, only 88 were attack runes, while the other 50 were defense runes and 50 were speed runes. The latter two were of no use to Jiang Shenwu. Chapter 45-28. After Kong Shinmu obtained the Blizzard Dragon Stone, he planned to test it out in actual combat to see its power. As for who he would spar with, Kong Shinmu pulled Xiao Yuhua and the other three to spar with him. It had been a year since they last met. Although they had all entered the Tianxian district, Jiang Shenwu still had no idea how strong they were. After all, Jiang Shenwu did not know how much the students had changed in terms of the overall environment of the Dragon Martial Academy. Therefore, the five of them returned to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. The current Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy had quite a number of students. It was mainly because they had recruited over 100 new students this year. They were all genius dragon martial artists from the Dragon Emperor Nation. These new students were basically enjoying the benefits of the old students. As for the old students, they were enjoying the benefits of the Longwu Fortress. Obviously, the rewards in the Longwu Fortress were much better than in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Kong Shinmu brought Xiao Yuhua and the other three back to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy and rented a sparring venue. In Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, other than the Central Plaza, there were many places for private sparring. These places were open to students, but they had to pay a certain amount of experience points. For students in the Tianxian district and above, these areas were free of charge. Therefore, Kong Shinmu and the others found a sparring venue. The surroundings were enclosed, and the entire sparring venue was thousands of feet wide. It was a very large spherical space. After the five of them entered, Kong Shinmu transformed into a black divine dragon. His body was more than 5,000 feet long, but he did not look as strong as the 10,000 feet Dragon Emperor. However, Xiao Yuhua and the other three did not dare to underestimate Kong Shinmu. "Let me go first." Liang Xiao was itching to give it a try. He was much stronger than he was a year ago, while Jiang Shenwu, with the divine dragon's inheritance and blood essence, was still a dragon king. In this aspect, there was basically no improvement in his strength. As for his cultivation realm, it had risen by 2 realms. Compared to Liang Xiao, this improvement was still slightly inferior. Therefore, Liang Xiao wanted to see how far he was from Kong Shinmu. As for defeating Kong Shinmu, he didn't even think about it. "Come on." Kong Shinmu looked at Liang Xiao curiously. Liang Xiao's Dragon Blood Meteor Burst was a high-grade origin source dragon martial technique. Now that he had cultivated it to the sage level through the Rising Dragon Pith, its might would definitely not be too weak. "I won't go through the procedure. I'll go directly." Dragon Blood Meteor Explosion. Liang Xiaofei instantly transformed into a blood-red divine dragon, and the blood-red power of samsara surged out from his body. The Dragon Blood Meteor Explosion technique condensed a stream of scarlet divine dragon blood, which fell toward Kong Shinmu like a blood-red waterfall. The terrifying power was vast and mighty, and just the aura alone was enough to overwhelm the ordinary students of the Dragon Martial Academy. Facing Liang Xiao's move, Kong Shinmu did not panic. He did not even move. At a time like this, it wasn't a true battle, but only a spar. He naturally wouldn't use the blade shadow flowing sunset flash to dodge. Otherwise, with the speed at which Liang Xiao executed this move, it would be utterly impossible for him to touch Jiang Shenwu. Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique. Guardian Stance. A layer of Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique surrounded Kong Shinmu's Divine Dragon Body, protecting him completely. Immediately after, the blood-red waterfall descended and exploded around his body. The boundless power of the dragon blood exploded like a falling meteor at that moment, producing a terrifying compression force that almost shattered the space around it. However, under the protection of the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique, Kong Shinmu was unscathed. His Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique was cultivated to the Earth tier. Coupled with his Heaven tier Chaotic Dragon Body and Guardian Stance, Kong Shinmu was able to withstand Liang Xiao's move head-on, and he was not injured at all. So powerful! The blood-red explosion dissipated, and Kong Shinmu's perfect divine dragon body reappeared in front of everyone, shocking them. One must know that the power of Liang Zhao's Dragon Blood Meteor Explosion technique was not something that the students of the Jade District could withstand head-on. During the Academy tournament, most of the students basically avoided him. After the Dragon Blood Meteor Explosion technique reached the Saint tier, its power doubled. In terms of destructive power, it had reached the peak of Liang Zhao's cultivation realm. The third level of the Samsara realm, the first level of the Dragon Emperor's inheritance blood essence, was not easy to maintain his position in the Jade District at this level. One must know that the average cultivation of the students in the Jade District was the fourth level of the Samsara realm, and they had the second level of the Dragon Emperor's inheritance blood essence. Liang Zhao was generally 2 levels lower than others, but he was able to maintain his position in the Jade District because of the powerful power of the Dragon Blood Meteor Explosion technique. As long as they were not careful and touched by it, many students would be seriously injured. Many dragon martial artists of the same realm with their defensive dragon martial skills could not withstand his Dragon Blood Meteor Explosion technique. Not bad, this attack strength, a few more times can even kill a high-ranked demon general. Of course, the premise is that the high-ranked demon general stays there and lets you attack. Kong Xinmu praised. These words made Liang Zhao immediately remove the divine dragon form, with a depressed look on his face. Brother Jiang, are you praising me or insulting me? A year ago, you could fight a high-ranked demon general alone, and now I can only kill a high-ranked demon general without moving. This gap is not small. The gap between the two of you is not small. Xiao Yuhua covered her mouth and chuckled, then flew to the field. Let me try. She transformed into a slender red divine dragon, and her whole body seemed to be ignited by flames, burning up, emitting an endless heat. Phoenix dance burns the 9 heavens. She also did not hesitate or test, directly using the method she was best at to attack Kong Xinmu, because she knew that Kong Xinmu was very strong. If it was not the strongest method, it would be impossible to do anything to Kong Xinmu. A flaming phoenix, as if condensing and dancing in midair, then swept towards Kong Xinmu. A burst of flame wind whistled. The speed of this move was much faster than Liang Zhao's Dragon Blood Meteor Explosion technique. Even Kong Xinmu estimated that when faced with this attack, he was afraid that he would not even have time to use the wind shadow flowing cloud flash. Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique. Nimble Stance. Kong Xinmu suddenly switched to the state of the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique. His entire black dragon body seemed to be covered with a layer of cool breeze. This layer of cool breeze made his speed more than double. The next moment, Kong Xinmu quickly moved away, and actually narrowly avoided this attack of Xiao Yuhua. This scene made the expressions of the surrounding 4 people change again and again. Kong Xinmu's speed was actually so terrifying. Chapter 45-29. This scene caused all 4 of them to be dumbfounded. Kong Xinmu had clearly dodged Xiao Yuhua's attack, but he actually turned back and took the initiative to crash into it. Was he trying to test how tanky he was? Kong Xinmu's black dragon body crashed into the flaming phoenix, and infinite fire attribute power immediately erupted, as if a volcano had erupted. At this moment, the temperature of the entire square suddenly rose by dozens of degrees, as if it was a parched land that had been roasted under the blazing sun for thousands of years. The power of the flaming phoenix erupted at this moment, enveloping Kong Xinmu's entire black dragon body. Even though Kong Xinmu had switched to his guardian mode, he still felt an incomparable heat at this moment. The power of the divine dragon tyrant body transmitted in, almost roasting his black dragon body. There was no doubt that Xiao Yuhua's attack was already very strong. Most importantly, this Phoenix Dance of the 9 Heavens was a high-grade origin source dragon martial technique that could weaken the opponent's fire attribute power resistance after each attack. This was the case now. Kong Xinmu could clearly feel that his fire attribute power resistance was rapidly weakening under the power of the Phoenix Dance of the 9 Heavens. If it were other dragon martial artists, they might not feel it too deeply, because they did not have much fire attribute resistance. However, Kong Xinmu's fire attribute resistance was originally of an extremely high level. Now that it was weakened by a little, he would feel it, not to mention that it was not just a little. After being attacked once by the Phoenix Dance of the 9 Heavens, Kong Xinmu felt as if the effect of his chaotic dragon body had been reduced by a level. If he was attacked 5 times in a row, wouldn't it be as if his chaotic dragon body had not been cultivated? It was too fragile. No wonder she was the most lethal when I cooperated with her to deal with the void monsters. Kong Xinmu sighed in his heart. Phoenix Dance of the 9 Heavens. Seeing this, Xiao Yuhua did not intend to give Kong Xinmu any time to catch his breath. She directly erupted with an even more terrifying attack, which was the third stage of the Phoenix Dance of the Nine Heavens. 3 flaming phoenixes appeared around her and flew towards Kong Xinmu almost instantly. This was a technique that she had recently practiced not long ago. Using 10 times the energy consumption, she directly performed 3 layers of Phoenix Dance, burning the 9 heavens at once, attacking the same target from 3 directions. This required a high level of control over one's power. However, Xiao Yuhua was a genius among geniuses. After half a year of training, she could completely master this move. The 3 flaming phoenixes exploded and landed on Kong Xinmu's divine dragon tyrant body. In just an instant, Kong Xinmu's divine dragon tyrant body was completely burned away. Seeing that the flame energy was about to land on Kong Xinmu's body, Kong Xinmu erupted with his devouring power. In just an instant, Kong Xinmu had completely devoured all the fire energy in the area. Xiao Yuhua's power was not too strong compared to Kong Xinmu's physical strength, so he devoured it very quickly. Before the fire energy could hurt Kong Xinmu, it had already been devoured by Kong Xinmu's devouring power and transformed into the purest devouring power. This pure devouring power could be used to perform dragon martial techniques, heal injuries, or even heal the injuries of others. At this moment, Kong Xinmu condensed the devouring power and directly activated the dragon martial rune in the Blizzard Dragon Stone. Blizzard Storm. The Earth-level divine spiritual dragon weapon had 108 offensive runes. At this moment, Kong Xinmu activated all of them and erupted with a blizzard storm. In an instant, a gust of wind and snow whistled from the battlefield, condensed from the overwhelming power of the 108 offensive battle runes, sucked in all the energy that Zhang Shenwu had just devoured, and erupted into a violent blizzard. It's an attack with such a wide range? Kong Xinmu was slightly disappointed to see that the entire space in the field was covered in a blizzard. Without a doubt, when the total amount of energy was the same, the smaller the attack range, the stronger the lethality. Now that the attack range of the blizzard storm was so wide, it could be seen that its power was not particularly great. However, it could be used to get rid of some small fries. Kong Xinmu recalled that when he was in the Yen Dragon Emperor dynasty, he had fought against the Dragon Martial Army alone. If he had the Blizzard Dragon Stone at that time, the Dragon Martial Army would definitely have collapsed as long as the blizzard storm erupted. Therefore, it could not be said that it was useless. Sigh. Kong Xinmu was rather disappointed. However, Kong Xinmu was not completely disappointed, because the Blizzard Dragon Stone was in his hands. The Blizzard Storm was equivalent to the Holy Spirit Dragon Martial Technique. Although it was only a beginner Holy Spirit Dragon Martial Technique, its basic power was still very strong. At the very least, it was much stronger than advanced Dragon Martial techniques such as the Phoenix Dance of the Nine Heavens and the Dragon Blood Meteor Explosion. There was no doubt that the stronger the power that erupted from the Blizzard Dragon Stone, the stronger the Blizzard Storm would be. Although the attack range was too wide, which led to the problem of the lethality being reduced, but if it was an actual combat, Kong Xinmu could wait until he had devoured enough energy, and then unleash all that energy in one go. If it was a beginner Holy Spirit Dragon Martial technique, as long as the power erupted was strong enough, there was a way to make the Blizzard Storm's lethality reach the level of a beginner Holy Spirit Dragon Martial technique in every place within its attack range, without the slightest reduction. This was the upper limit of the Blizzard Storm. Moreover, if Kong Xinmu devoured more energy in one go, it would be possible for him to defeat opponents who were stronger than him. It was completely possible for him to kill opponents who were stronger than him in one go. This possibility came from the Blizzard Storm. At this moment, a violent snowstorm erupted in the entire spherical space. Defend! Seeing this, Ran, Xiao Bai and the other two's expressions changed slightly. This blizzard had enveloped them. Not only Xiao Yuhua, but the other 3 had also become the target. The blizzard swept through the entire space, and countless hailstones the size of small hills condensed in mid-air. Then, with an endless amount of cold energy, it crashed towards the 4 of them. This was the ice attribute energy that the devouring power had transformed from the Blizzard Dragon Stone. Kong Xinmu had devoured Xiao Yuhua's Phoenix Dance, incinerating the 9th Heaven's power, and directly released the Blizzard Storm. Its power was distributed throughout the entire space, so its lethality was not very strong. Xiao Yuhua and the others each displayed a defensive move, and they blocked Kong Xinmu's Blizzard Storm. Such a wide attack range, yet it has such power. Looks like the Blizzard Dragon Stone that Brother Jiang exchanged for is very suitable for Brother Jiang. Ran was a little impressed. Chapter 45-30. The sparring session ended very quickly. When Kong Shin-mu unleashed his Blizzard Blast, he had a rough idea of everyone's level. The strength of Xiao Yuhua and the other three had already reached the level of the Jade District. Compared to White Scorpion and Qian Bing, they were much stronger. Of course, Kong Shin-mu did not know how strong White Scorpion and Qian Bing were now, but he guessed that they were not as strong as them. After all, the four of them were geniuses among geniuses. Among the old students of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, their progress was extremely fast. Not to mention, Kong Shin-mu's Demon Hunting Core had been exchanged for Demon Hunting Points, allowing them to obtain sufficient cultivation resources. Kong Shin-mu was quite satisfied with this situation. After testing the power of the Blizzard Dragon Stone, Kong Shin-mu could not go out to hunt void beasts. Recently, the void beasts had been holed up near the Void Rift and rarely appeared. Moreover, now that Xueqi had returned to the Demon God race, the situation might change. Kong Shin-mu did not plan to wander around the Void Rift. He also reminded Xiao Yuhua and the others to consolidate their cultivation in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy and not to leave easily. Even if they went to the Dragon Martial Fortress, it was best not to leave the vicinity of the fortress. Who knew what would happen to the Dragon Martial continent after the Demon God race picked up Xueqi? As for Kong Shin-mu, he had to think about his own cultivation route while familiarizing himself with the Blizzard Dragon Stone, striving to be more compatible with it. There were 108 offensive battle runes in the Blizzard Dragon Stone. When activated, each offensive battle rune could increase Kong Shin-mu's strength by 1%. 108 runes added together would more than double his strength. But this was only when he had just obtained the Blizzard Dragon Stone. He could only unleash about half of the Blizzard Dragon Stone's power. After all, it was an Earth-level Holy Dragon weapon. The reason why it was not open to the Dragon Martial continent under normal circumstances was that no matter who obtained it, they could unleash at least half of its power. For ordinary dragon weapons to unleash half of its power, they had to be at least 50% compatible with it. This was what made the Divine Spiritual Dragon weapon different from the rest. If the Divine Spirit Dragon weapon was snatched by others, it would be very difficult for the other party to unleash its power in a short period of time. However, if the Divine Spirit Dragon weapon was snatched by others, very quickly, it would become a part of the other party's strength. If I can be more compatible with the Blizzard Dragon Vein Stone, I can at most increase my strength by 2% when I activate each offensive pattern. With all of them added together, my attack power will be doubled. 108 offensive battle runes. Impressive indeed. In terms of defense and speed, Kong Shin-mu did not need to be enhanced by the Dragon Soldier's battle patterns. Therefore, he only needed the dragon weapon to be engraved with offensive battle patterns. He then thought of the 3 Desolate God demonic weapons on him. These were 3 Heaven-grade Desolate God demonic weapons, the highest grade Desolate God demonic weapons. Regardless of whether it was the Void-rending Void Magic Blade, the Instant Magic Ring, or the Sky-imprisoning Demon Orb, they all contained hundreds of demon inscriptions. Among them, the Void-ripping Void Magic Blade was engraved with 560 offensive Mageweths and 280 Void Mageweths. The difficulty of engraving such special Mageweths was much higher than that of offensive Mageweths. Kong Shin-mu did not know what effect the Void Mageweths had. However, the effect of 560 offensive Mageweths was equivalent to 560 offensive battle runes. No matter who it was, even if they had just obtained it, they would be able to unleash more than 5 times the power of the Void-ripping Void Magic Blade. Of course, there was a special restriction in the Void-ripping Void Magic Blade. Only the royal bloodline of a 16-winged heavenly demon god could activate the power of the Void-ripping Void Magic Blade. In the Instant Magic Ring, there were close to 1,000 Void Mageweths. It possessed extremely strong Void power, which was why it could be used to travel through the Void. These were all top-grade Desolate God demonic weapons, which were similar to the top-grade Divine Spiritual Dragon weapons. Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy did not have such things. Even the inferior dragon-grade Divine Spiritual Dragon weapons could be considered as the ultimate treasure of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy. The Blizzard Dragon Stone is indeed the strongest dragon weapon that I can obtain now. I have to unleash its power well. As Kong Shin-mu was deep in thought, he began to spend time with the Blizzard Dragon Stone in his palace. At the same time, he began to devour the energy of the dragon mark every night. After leaving Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy for a year, he had almost forgotten the feeling of devouring the energy of the dragon mark. Now that he was devouring it, it still felt great. However, because the dragon mark blood pendant was broken, it was not convenient for him to devour the energy too quickly. He could only take it slow. Fortunately, what he lacked now was not the speed of absorbing the energy of the dragon mark, but the time to consolidate the energy of the dragon mark. He could completely absorb the energy of the dragon mark by exchanging it for cultivation resources. However, if he relied on cultivation resources completely, it would be difficult to consolidate the energy of the dragon mark. Even if he forcefully broke through the grade of the divine dragon blood essence, the increase in his strength would be limited. Naturally, Kong Xinmu would not blindly increase the grade of the divine dragon blood essence. If he wanted to do it, he would do it to be the strongest. Therefore, consolidating the energy of the dragon mark was something he had to do. Fortunately, he had been consolidating the energy of the dragon mark for the past year. This was something that could only be achieved with time. Now, I'm at the 8th level of the Dragon King, and I'm not far from the 9th level of the Dragon King. After consolidating it for another month or so, I can try to increase it. Kong Xinmu thought to himself. After the 9th level of the Dragon King, he had to think about breaking through to the level of the Dragon Emperor's legacy blood. This process was too long. Even a genius like Kong Xinmu had spent a few years. He had just joined the Donghuang Yongwu College and quickly broke through to the level of the Dragon King's legacy blood. Basically, this was something that every student could do. However, how much time was needed to go from the Dragon King to the Dragon Emperor? The difference was too big. Some people needed decades, while others only needed 10 years. Some geniuses, such as the current Kong Xinmu, only needed 3 to 5 years to basically achieve this goal. Ever since Kong Xinmu joined the Donghuang Yongwu College, he had already experienced 4 competitions. That meant that 4 years had passed. Unknowingly, I've been a dragon warrior for 5 to 6 years. Kong Xinmu recalled the time when he first obtained the dragon warrior's legacy blood. That was 5 to 6 years ago in the Jiang clan. Now that he thought about it, it all seemed a little distant. And now, he was finally no longer a teenager. Although he was not handsome or elegant, he was still a talented person. Compared to when he first became a dragon warrior, he had grown a head taller. Only by continuing forward can I save my father. Kong Xinmu's goal was the ancestral dragon. And to become a powerful existence at the level of the ancestral dragon, the prerequisite was to become a supreme divine dragon and possess supreme power. First, become a dragon emperor. Then, the super divine dragon, the supreme divine dragon, and finally, the ancestral dragon. No matter what difficulties Kong Xinmu encountered, he would never stop his footsteps. Chapter 45-31. Of course, Kong Xinmu did not know what the demonic path was like, so he did not think about it for the time being. At the very least, he definitely needed to improve his dragon god bloodline. In his mind, the consciousness of the demonic god ancestor and the black dragon were restraining each other, and they would even bicker. Of course, most of the time, it was the demonic god ancestor who spoke, while the black dragon remained silent. Jiang Xinwu did not know how to deal with these two consciousnesses and existences of this level. Anyway, he did not have the ability to deal with these two consciousnesses, so he could only ignore them for now. Kong Xinmu cultivated at Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Academy, devouring the energy of the dragon mark. About 20 days later, the grade of the divine dragon blood in his body finally achieved a breakthrough, reaching the 9th level of the Dragon King. This increased his overall strength by about 10%. Although the change was not very big, the key was that the grade of his divine dragon blood was much closer to that of the Dragon Emperor. Once he broke through to the level of the Dragon Emperor, Kong Xinmu's battle prowess would skyrocket. Compared to other Dragon Martial Academy students, his biggest disadvantage was that the divine dragon blood had not reached the level of the Dragon Emperor. However, this could not be rushed. If there were no accidents, it would take Kong Xinmu at least a year to break through to the Dragon Emperor, and this was the shortest amount of time. Generally speaking, breaking through to the Dragon Emperor level was a bottleneck. If one could not break through the bottleneck, they would never be able to become the Dragon Emperor. Of course, those who could become students of the Dragon Martial Academy would not be stuck there forever. It was just a matter of time. For example, The bottleneck of Xiao Yuhua and the others was not very strong. They were not stuck at the level of the Dragon Emperor for long. It depended on how many levels they reached in the Dragon Emperor level before they encountered a bottleneck. Not long after Kong Xinmu broke through to the 9th level of the Dragon King, there was finally news from the Dragon Martial Fortress. Not long ago, someone had encountered some strange creatures in the void above the Martial Dragon continent. Those creatures looked like demonic beasts, but they were different. Their strength clearly surpassed all the demonic beasts on the Martial Dragon continent. It was a Dragon Emperor from the Martial Dragon continent. After a fierce battle with his opponent, he had failed and returned to the Martial Dragon Fortress to report the situation. This matter attracted the attention of the 4 great Dragon Martial Academies. Soon, the 4 great Dragon Martial Academies sent the Dragon Emperor to investigate the situation. A day later, an alarm was issued from the Dragon Fortress. It was said that the crack in the void had been discovered by other races, and many powerful races had come to the Martial Dragon continent through the crack in the void. Among those races, there was the Demon God clan, which was the ancestor of the demonic beasts in the Dragon Martial continent. There were also other races that the Dragon Martial artists had never seen before, including the Demon God clan. Many races invaded the Martial Dragon continent through the crack in the void. Without a doubt, the overall strength of these races definitely surpassed the Martial Dragon continent. It should be known that the Demon God clan alone was enough to contend against the entire Dragon God clan. Of course, among the experts of the Demon God clan and the other races that came out of the crack in the void, there were no supreme experts among them. It seemed that the major races had joined forces and made some sort of agreement to send some of their juniors to the Martial Dragon continent to compete with each other. Are they fighting for the ownership of the Martial Dragon continent according to the agreement? Kong Xinmu could not help but speculate after receiving the news. When Xueqi was taken away by the Demon God clan, perhaps the other races had discovered the crack in the void, so the major races began to negotiate. Looking at the current situation, the result of the negotiation was to let the weaker ones enter the Martial Dragon continent to train. The race that killed the most dragon martial artists would be the strongest, and the Martial Dragon continent would be controlled by that race. The Demon God clan was among them. Just the first batch of Dragon Emperor's teachers from the Dragon Martial Academy had detected that there were 7 or 8 different races participating in this competition. In other words, the current Martial Dragon continent was facing the simultaneous invasion of the major races from the chaotic battlefield. Of course, there should not be more than 10 races participating in this invasion, and there would not be any new races joining in the future. There were many races that wanted to occupy the Martial Dragon continent, and everything depended on the results. Now, the supreme divine dragons of the Dragon God clan seemed to have abandoned the Martial Dragon continent. He did not know what the situation was in the world of the Dragon God clan. Could it be that they were being attacked by the major races? Kong Xinmu did not know, and he could not guess the situation up there. He only knew that the Martial Dragon continent was finally facing a difficult test. If the supreme experts did not appear, with the super dragon deans of the 4 Dragon Martial Academies, it should not be too much of a problem to defend the Martial Dragon Fortress. Although the other party had the advantage in numbers, the major races were not united, and there was competition between them. If they made good use of this point, the Martial Dragon continent might not be at a disadvantage. All of this was not Kong Xinmu's blind guess, but the Demon God ancestor's analysis in his mind. The agreement between the major races should have a time limit. According to my experience, this time limit may be 3 years, or it may be 5 years. In short, the time limit will not be too short, nor too long. When the time limit comes, the major races will follow the agreement and decide who will control the small world of the Martial Dragon continent in the future. At that time, they will definitely send supreme experts to take over the small world of the Martial Dragon continent. Now that the Dragon God clan world is being besieged, they probably have no time to care about you. In other words, the fate of the small world of the Martial Dragon continent is no longer in your hands. When Kong Xinmu heard the analysis of the Demon God ancestor, his mood immediately became very bad. Without a doubt, this was using the Martial Dragon continent as a battlefield for the various races to compete with each other. It was conceivable that if any of these races invaded, it would be a disaster for the Martial Dragon continent. Not to mention that there were 7 or 8 races invading at the same time. Under such circumstances, the Dragon Martial artists of the Martial Dragon continent could only hide in the Martial Dragon Fortress. Wanting to go out and hunt the experts of the major races? That was impossible. Instead, they would have to worry about becoming prey for others. Of course, the more dangerous the situation, the more opportunities some geniuses had. For example, Kong Shinmu. Originally, Kong Shinmu was still thinking that now that the demon god clan was retreating, if there were no void monsters to hunt in the martial dragon continent, what could he rely on to hunt for demon hunting points and improve himself? Chapter 45-32. All the dragon practitioners in the Yuhing district and above had been summoned to the martial dragon fortress to gather. The invasion of the martial dragon continent by the various races was definitely the greatest crisis the continent had ever encountered. Therefore, all the dragon practitioners in the Yuhing district were forced to participate in the defensive battle. The Dragon Emperor's mentors have already ascertained the situation. There are a total of 9 races invading. They are the Demon God race, the Talisman Water tribe, the Void Human tribe. If the 9 races unite and attack our martial dragon fortress, we won't even be able to hold them off for a month. Fortunately, the 9 races have made a bet with each other. Their main goal is to hunt us martial dragon warriors, and they have set a time limit of 3 years. Whichever race can kill the most martial dragon warriors within 3 years, the experts of that race will descend upon our martial dragon continent after 3 years. When Kong Shinmu returned to the martial dragon fortress with Xiao Yuhua and the others, he was quickly brought to Linghu Dai to inform him of the situation. The situation described by Linghu Dai was exactly what the demon god ancestor had predicted. After all, the demon god ancestor was the ancestor that the demon god race worshipped. Just like the real divine dragon, he was above the other major races. The demon god race was considered very strong among the major races, but to the demon god race, the ancient demon god was the god that they worshipped. This was a completely different concept. Therefore, to the demon god ancestor, the tricks of the various races were child's play. He had seen it many times in his previous life. Right now, the 9 races are dividing the battlefield, Linghu Dai said solemnly. Linghu Dai said with a serious expression, the 9 races have already built bases near the spatial rift. They are gathering places similar to our martial dragon fort's spatial disk. The bases of each race are a certain distance away from each other, and their bases are strictly controlled. The distance between their bases and our martial dragon fortress is basically the same. The 9 races have jointly announced that in the first year, only their juniors will take action. The elders of both sides are not allowed to take action. The juniors here refer to the dragon martialists below the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor realm. It's the same for the 9 major races. For example, the Demon God clan doesn't have much of a difference in strength until they reach the 5th level of the Demon Emperor realm. I also heard that the deans of the 4 dragon martial academies have already contacted a certain race and reached an agreement. Listen well. This agreement is very important to you. When you're hunting other tribes, prioritize the Demon God tribe, the Void Human tribe, and the Talisman Water tribe. As long as you kill their tribesmen, you'll receive additional rewards in addition to the guardian points awarded by the Martial Dragon Fortress. This extra reward comes from the deans. After Linghu Dai finished speaking, Jiang Shenwu roughly understood the situation. The 9 races were competing with each other, and according to the rules, the elders were not allowed to interfere. Therefore, they contacted the deans of the 4 great dragon martial academies and asked them to help attack the other races. Although the 9 great clans were said to be competing with each other, in fact, there were still factions fighting in the dark. In fact, the Demon God tribe and the Void Human tribe were indisputable allies in the chaotic battlefield. Now that they were targeting the Martial Dragon continent, they might not seem to be doing anything on the surface, but they had definitely formed an alliance in secret. If either side occupied the Martial Dragon continent, the other side would also benefit. Therefore, for them, there would definitely be competition, but there would definitely be more cooperation. This was also what the God-fiend ancestor had explained to Kong Shinmu. There were many connections between these races. If not for the number of times he had interacted with them, he might not have been able to see through some of the relationships. In other words, the students of Emperor Xi's Dragon and Martial Arts Academy, as well as the experts of the Dragon Emperor who are affiliated with Emperor Xi's Dragon and Martial Arts Academy, can choose to kill the Demon God clan, the Talisman Water clan, and the Virtual Human clan. In this case, the race that cooperates with the headmaster of our Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy, Yu Yaji, will give us additional rewards. After hearing this news, Kong Shinmu's eyes instantly lit up. To him, There was no better news than this. Moreover, in the year before the invasion, only dragon martial artists below the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor were allowed to participate in the battle. In other words, the experts of the Dubhe district were directly excluded. Currently, the 9 students of the Dubhe district of the Dragon Emperor Dragon and Martial Arts Academy were all at the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor. This level had prevented them from participating in the invasion of the 9 major races in the previous year, so they had not been able to improve. Of course, if Kong Xinmu and the others chose to participate in the battle, they would indeed have the opportunity to obtain a lot of cultivation resources. However, the danger was also extremely high. It was much more dangerous than hunting the void demons previously. One had to know that the void demons had no intelligence and only knew to obey the orders of the God-Fiend clan. However, each of the 9 major races that invaded this time was an intelligent race. Not only did they have tyrannical strength, but they also had very high intelligence. In the process of fighting against the 9 major races at the same time, could the dragon martial artists of the martial dragon continent really gain an advantage? Kong Xinmu still had some doubts about this. On the surface, the 9 major races were competing with each other to attract the dragon martial artists to leave the Longwu fortress to hunt the members of their enemy races. But in essence, weren't they also luring their prey away from the Longwu fortress? The dragon martial artists who left the Longwu fortress were their prey. And the final evaluation of the 3-year period was based on the number of dragon martial artists each had killed. It seemed that this was a fair war, but in reality, no one knew what the 9 major races would do in secret. In any case, I must be careful when I go out. Let's first understand the characteristics of the 9 major races. Kong Xinmu was very clear about one thing, and that was, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. If you wanted to go out and hunt the members of the 9 major races, you must have a certain understanding of them. Otherwise, you would not know what the other party had up their sleeves. Wouldn't that be tragic? On the contrary, for the members of the 9 major races, they should have a very good understanding of the dragon martial artists of the Dragon God clan. In terms of information, the dragon martial artists of the martial dragon continent were already at a natural disadvantage. After Ling Hu died, found Kong Xinmu and the others and privately told them the news in advance. The next day, the news spread throughout the entire Longwu fortress. Of course, the deans of the 4 dragon martial academies chose different races to ally with. Chapter 45-33. When the news spread in the dragon martial fortress, the dragon martial warriors in the fortress suddenly became extremely nervous. The next period of time would be extremely cruel. Everyone had already realized this point. In just 1 year, no one knew how many dragon martial warriors would die, and they didn't know if they would be one of the dragon martial warriors who would die. No matter what, this was the best opportunity for them to improve their strength. Against the 9 major races, the initiative was still in the hands of the dragon martial warriors, because as long as they did not leave the dragon martial fortress, the 9 major races would not forcibly attack the 9 major races within these 3 years. But now, everyone was holding their breath. Why did the 9 major races unite to bully the dragon martial continent? It was because there were no strong warriors in the dragon martial continent. Or it could be said that if the dragon gods could send a supreme divine dragon, the situation in the dragon martial continent could be easily solved. Seeing that the dragon gods had no time to spare and had to take care of this place, the 9 major races joined forces to attack. All this was because the dragon martial continent had no value. At least in the eyes of the dragon gods, it was not so important. For the dragon gods, the dragon martial continent was a place to cultivate geniuses, but without top geniuses, why would the dragon gods value the dragon martial continent? For a moment, all the dragon martial warriors were holding their breath. They did not want to die in vain, but it was conceivable that if the situation did not improve in 3 years, all the dragon martial warriors on the dragon martial continent would become slaves of the foreign races. Just like the status of the void demons in the demon god clan. Now many people were still ignorant about the affairs of races, and did not know where these races came from. But now, it was a fact that they had come to the dragon martial continent. They must find a way to fight against them. At least within these 3 years, they had to show enough potential. As long as more geniuses emerged, the more attention the dragon gods would pay, and maybe they would send a supreme divine dragon over to help. This was the last chance for the dragon martial continent. Otherwise, all their friends, families, and people would become slaves of the foreign races. One could imagine how miserable their fate would be. No one would run away at this time. unless they were particularly timid dragon martial warriors. Because if they did not fight now, they might never have a chance to fight again. For a time, the dragon martialists on the martial dragon fortress were in high spirits. Behind all of this, countless people began to plan for themselves. Since they had to fight this time, they would not retreat. However, they would definitely want to preserve their lives and obtain more benefits from the battle. The students of the 4 dragon martial academies began to make their own plans. Also, the Dragon Emperor powerhouses in the Dragon Emperor nation were considering which dragon martial academy they should join. Only by joining a faction would they receive additional rewards from the races in the alliance, which would maximize their benefits. Before choosing a faction, it was necessary to understand the 9 major races. Therefore, after the news of the 9 major races joint competition spread, many dragon martial artists basically did not act rashly. After all, everyone took their lives seriously. For a time, the students of the Dragon Martial Academy all returned to their respective academies and went to the library to look for information about the 9 races. Kong Xinmu did not participate in this year's competition, so he was originally a student of the Fecta zone, but now he was automatically placed in the Migres zone. This was the rule of the 4 Dragon Martial Academies, and it could not be changed. The information that the students of the Migres zone could look at was limited. Therefore, Kong Xinmu could only let Xiao Yuhua and the other 3 go to the library to look for information and learn about the 9 major races as much as possible. This process did not last long. About 3 days later, the students of the Dragon Martial Academy basically understood the characteristics of the 9 major races. Information about these races was previously seen as legends, and very few people would even study them. However, they did not expect that these races would join forces to invade the Dragon Martial continent. It was really unexpected. As long as the students of the Tianxian zone looked at the information about the 9 major races was soon spread. After all, the 4 Dragon Martial Academies had recruited the students of the Yuhing zone to fight against the 9 major races. Therefore, this time, they made an exception and took the initiative to spread the information about the 9 major races, giving every student of the Yuhing zone and above a copy. Kong Xinmu also received a copy, so he knew a lot about the information. Moreover, the information that the students of the Dragon Martial Academy received was quickly spread, and the powerhouses of the Dragon Emperor country knew that they could not give them any information if they wanted to fight against the 9 major races, right? This was the preparation stage. During this period, there were people who left the Dragon Martial Fortress, but those dragon martial artists who left the fortress did not find any opportunities to kill members of the 9 major races. Similarly, they did not encounter any danger. It was as if the 9 major races had not descended. However, regarding this, the demon god ancestor described to Kong Xinmu that this was an illusion that the 9 major races had created for the Dragon Martial Fortress. Imagine, if all the dragon martial artists who dared to go out were killed. After that, would any dragon martial artist leave the Dragon Martial Fortress? Therefore, they simply pretended not to see it and ignored the dragon martial artists who went out recently. Moreover, the number of juniors sent by the 9 major races could not be too large. It was impossible to kill all the dragon martial artists in the Dragon Martial Fortress. At the very least, they had to create the illusion that it was not very dangerous for the dragon martial artists to go out to fight the invaders of the 9 major races. When all the dragon martial artists thought so, it would be the time for the 9 major races to really attack. At that time, the survival rate of the dragon martial artists on the battlefield would definitely be at its lowest. To the 9 major races, the dragon gods represented by the dragon martial artists were all foreign races. There was no possibility of them holding back at all. Therefore, when the time came, it would really be a matter of strength. Killing members of the 9 major races or slaves of the 9 major races will give you protection points. In the early stages, the 9 major races will send slaves to test our strength. For example, the demon god clans void monsters and the demon god clans reared demonic beasts. Each of the races basically has a few slave races, and they are a great threat to us. Of course, it is not easy to rely on these slaves to kill a large number of our dragon martial artists. Therefore, these slaves can only be used to test the waters. Just like the rules we agreed on, the strength of the slaves they send will not exceed the level of the Dragon Emperor's 5th level. It is still possible for us students to deal with them. Chapter 45-34. Kong Xinmu, along with Xiao Yuhua and the other 4, became the first batch of explorers in order to earn guardian points. According to the demon god ancestor, the first batch of explorers would not be in much danger. They would not encounter people from the 9 major clans. They would most likely encounter slaves of the 9 major clans. Of course, if their luck was really bad, there was nothing they could do. Kong Shinmu felt that his luck was pretty good, so he led the first batch of explorers to leave the Martial Dragon Fortress. There were about 10 teams like the 5 of them in the first batch. They left the Martial Dragon Fortress with the goal of hunting members of the 9 major clans. All the other dragon martialists were waiting for them to bring back the results. Kong Shinmu and the others set off from the Martial Dragon Fortress and flew in the direction of the Demon God Clan's base. The Demon God Clan was the race they were most familiar with. The key was that the demon slaves of the Demon God Clan were existences like demon beasts. Most of them had no intelligence and were familiar with their fighting style. The Demon God Clan was a great enemy of the Dragon God Clan. Therefore, in the Martial Dragon continent, they raised so many demon beasts for the dragon martialists to practice with. This was so that after the dragon martialists were trained, the students could quickly adapt to the battle with the Demon God Clan. The Demon God Clan usually releases demon slaves to scout out the situation. There won't be any Demon God Clan members. Kong Shinmu speculated according to the Demon God ancestor's consciousness and said to Xiao Yuhua and the others, "Let's see how it goes. If we encounter a demon slave that we can beat, we will kill it. If we can't, we will run." Demon slaves were sometimes very strong. For example, high-rank demon general-level void demons. If there were more of them, Kong Shinmu might not be able to beat them. Now that both sides were at the testing stage, Kong Shinmu felt that he should not be so unlucky. The number of guardian points obtained from hunting slaves of the 9 major clans is the same as the number obtained from hunting demon hunting monsters. Liang Xiao said in a low voice, "If we can hunt members of the 9 major clans, we can exchange 10 times more guardian points for opponents of the same level. It's not easy to meet the real members of the 9 races." Xiao Yuhua shook her head. It's said that when these races fight, they let their slaves go first. When the real clansmen appear, it's basically when the slaves win. That's not necessarily the case. Kong Shinmu shook his head and said, "To be honest, what kind of opponent we'll meet is completely up to luck." The 4 of them nodded in agreement. In order to avoid being ambushed, they immediately transformed into dragons and flew out of the Martial Dragon Fortress, heading for the starry sky. Along the way, nothing too nerve-wracking happened. He did not even sense the slightest trace of the Demon God Clan's aura. This made Xiao Yuhua and the others a little puzzled, but under Kong Shinmu's reminder, they still maintained absolute vigilance. Suddenly, just as they were halfway to the crack in the void next to them distorted. Then, one after another, black leopard demon beasts appeared from the distorted void. Each of these black leopards was hundreds of feet long, and they were all experts at the Demon Emperor level. There was a total of 5 black leopards, all demon slaves of the Demon God Clan. They were all demon emperors above the 7th level of the reincarnation tribulation realm. Each of these 5 black leopard demon slaves was about the same strength as the Demon Stone Emperor that Kong Shinmu had encountered on the Martial Dragon continent. The 5 black leopard demon slaves together could completely crush Kong Shinmu's group of 5. Of course, this was only under normal circumstances. If Xiao Yuhua and the others encountered these 4 black leopard demon slaves, they definitely would not be able to defeat them. But, with the addition of Kong Shinmu, the situation was completely different. Compared to the time when he was on the Martial Dragon continent, Kong Shinmu's devouring power had already transformed. His cultivation level and the grade of the divine dragon blood essence had also improved. Moreover, he had obtained the Wind Snow Dragon Pattern Stone, an Earth-grade Saint spiritual dragon weapon. His combat strength was much stronger than before. "Fight!" Kong Shinmu roared. His entire black dragon body charged directly in the direction of the 3 black leopard demon slaves. The devouring power in his body condensed into the Shadow Dragon Sky-propping smash. 6 black dragon heads appeared in the void, condensing into 6 pitch-black beams of light that swept towards the 3 black leopard demon slaves. This was the Demon God Clan's test, so Kong Shinmu did not need to hold back. After all, the Demon God Clan was very clear about many things. Even if they were testing, they had to ensure that they had the upper hand. Although demonic slaves weren't important to them, they weren't dispensable either. It wasn't difficult to nurture a demonic sovereign realm demonic slave, but it would take a long time. If they lost too many demonic slaves in a single war, the demon god tribe wouldn't be able to bear it. Similarly, the demon god clan's void demons were the same. Void demons did not fear death, but if they lost too many, the demon god clan would also feel the pinch. That was why they had let the void demons be on the defensive, retreating to the vicinity of the void rift. They did not take the initiative to attack the martial dragon fortress. Kong Shinmu's attack arrived in an instant, but his shadow dragon sky-propping smash posed no threat to these demon slaves. The shadow dragon sky-propping smash was only a low-grade origin source dragon martial technique. Even if it was cultivated to the heaven grade, its power was only so. To the black leopard demon slaves with coarse skin and flesh, it posed no threat at all. The key was that Kong Shinmu's foundation was too weak. If Kong Shinmu had inherited blood essence at the level of the Dragon Emperor, the situation would be different. A simple shadow dragon sky-propping smash could pose a threat to his opponent. Roar! When Kong Shinmu's attack landed on the 3 black leopard demon slaves, the 3 black leopard demon slaves immediately roared and charged at Kong Shinmu. Who asked Kong Shinmu to attack them first? Therefore, the 3 black leopard demon slaves directly attacked Kong Shinmu. 3 against 1, they decided to finish off Kong Shinmu as quickly as possible. As for the other 2 black leopard demon slaves, they charged at Xiao Yuhua and the other 3. Seeing this, the 4 of them immediately got into a fighting stance. Ran Ran flew to the front. When the 4 of them fought together, Ran Ran was mainly responsible for defense. Of course, her Black Phoenix heart-piercing dragon martial technique was also very powerful, but in comparison, her defense was truly powerful. After the dark dragon filth controlling art broke through to the saint grade, her defense directly increased by several times. The energy of the dark dragon filth controlling art covered the surface of her divine dragon body, forming a defensive barrier. The strength of the barrier even exceeded the heaven-grade chaos dragon body. It was no less than the increase in defense that Kong Shinmu's divine dragon tyrant body art gave him. Chapter 45-35. The 4 of them had worked together many times and were very familiar with it now. They planned to fight the 2 black leopard demonic slaves head-on. These 5 black leopard demonic slaves were all at the 7th level of the reincarnation tribulation realm. Their strength had not reached the highest level of Demon Emperor, but their combat strength was not weak, especially in terms of speed, which had almost reached the extreme. Xiao Yuhua and the other 3 had also sparred with Dragon Emperor before. Although they could not beat Dragon Emperor individually, they could compete with Yen Dragon Emperor together. Now the 2 black leopard demonic slaves in front of them were not as good as Yen Dragon Emperor, so they did not feel much pressure. Instead, they paid more attention to Kong Shinmu. He was facing 3 black leopard demonic slaves alone. Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Technique, Defensive Stance. After using the Void Dragon Sky Raising Break to attack the 3 black leopard demonic slaves, Kong Shinmu directly adopted a defensive stance. The 3 black leopard demonic slaves attacked Kong Shinmu with their physical strength and instantly landed on his divine dragon body. The combined strength of the 3 black leopard demonic slaves was extremely terrifying. It actually caused cracks to appear in Kong Shinmu's divine dragon tyrant body technique. Soon, the divine dragon tyrant body technique was about to be shattered. These black leopard demonic slaves can't just use their physical strength, can they? Can't they use the power of heaven and earth? Kong Shinmu's face suddenly darkened. His devouring power was really afraid of this type of opponent. If it was an attack with the power of heaven and earth, he could directly use his devouring power to devour it. Although the 3 black leopard demonic slaves' strength was quite high, it would not take long for Kong Shinmu to devour them. However, the other party was purely relying on their physical strength to attack. In that case, I will devour your physical bodies. Kong Shinmu suddenly looked serious. Without the slightest hesitation, he directly switched to the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body technique and displayed a strong offensive stance, so that the lethality of his talent power increased by 2 or 3 times. Immediately afterwards, the 108 battle runes in the Snow Wind Dragon Stone erupted with all their power. The intensity of Kong Shinmu's devouring power suddenly increased by 3 to 5 times. Devour! Kong Shinmu's devouring power burst out from his body. Suddenly, it was like a black fog enveloping the entire area, covering the bodies of the 3 Black Panther demon slaves. At this moment, the devouring power completely erupted. For a moment, as Kong Shinmu had abandoned his defense, the attacks of the 3 black leopard demon slaves directly tore apart his divine dragon tyrant body. Then, their sharp claws landed on Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body. Even though he had cultivated so many body-refining dragon martial arts, at this moment, his body was directly torn apart by the 3 Black Panther demon slaves. Countless amounts of dragon blood splashed out, and his entire body was covered in wounds so deep that bones could be seen. Unfortunately, Kong Shinmu directly swallowed a devil elixir, which erupted with incomparably tyrannical vitality, allowing the injuries all over his body to recover in an instant. The 3 Black Panther demon slaves in front of him were not easy to deal with. They were demon emperors at the 7th level of the reincarnation tribulation realm. A Black Panther demon slave was equivalent to a high-rank demon general from before. In total, there were 3 high-rank demon generals, and they all directly used their physical strength. For Kong Shinmu, they were the kind that were difficult to deal with. At this moment, after he swallowed the devil elixir of the high-rank demon general, Kong Shinmu's wounds all recovered. The effect of the dark dragon filth controlling technique was also directly activated at this moment, allowing his recovery speed to reach the most terrifying level. Even the bone-deep wounds could be healed in an instant. The 3 Black Panther demon slaves looked at this scene in disbelief, but they were confident that they were extremely strong. Immediately, an even stronger tearing force erupted, and sharp claws landed on Kong Shinmu's divine dragon body. However, the devouring power that Kong Shinmu had erupted at this moment had already enveloped the bodies of their demon slaves. The 3 Black Panther demon slaves quickly discovered that the pitch-black devouring power that covered their bodies was like a monster that wanted to drill into their fur, into their bodies, and devour all their life force. This was the devouring power that had undergone a transformation. Even if the other party's body was not injured, the devouring power could directly devour the other party's flesh and blood. The Black Dragon's consciousness was already restricted by the demon god ancestor's consciousness. The flesh and blood power that Kong Shinmu devoured was completely for his own use, so he did not have to worry about providing life force to the Black Dragon's consciousness. Therefore, under Kong Shinmu's devouring power, the bodies of the 3 Black Panther demon slaves slowly weakened. Their attacks were still brutal, and there were even more wounds on Kong Shinmu's body. Even the devouring of the devil elixir did not allow him to fully recover. The wounds under the sharp claws came one after another, and the pain he was experiencing could be imagined. But Kong Shinmu forcibly endured all of this. Enduring the endless pain, he surged the devouring power into the bodies of the 3 Black Panther demon slaves. If the other party used the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to attack, Kong Shinmu only needed to devour a bit and counterattack with the Snow Wind Dragonstone Snowstorm Tyrannosaurus Dragon martial skill, and he could easily kill the opponent. Unfortunately, he could only use the stupid method now, which was to use the devouring power to directly devour the other party's flesh and blood essence. This was destined to be a long battle, and it was impossible to end so quickly. Even though Jiang Shenwu had activated the Snow Wind Dragon Pattern Stone, causing his devouring power to erupt out more than twice as much, and he even had the enhancement from the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Art's strong offensive stance, devouring the essence of the flesh was not something that could be completed quickly. More than an hour had passed. The 3 Black Panther demon slaves finally felt that something was wrong. Their bodies were already extremely weak, and the injuries on Kong Shinmu's black dragon body were still recovering at an extremely fast speed. A high-ranked devil general's devil elixir was still affordable for Kong Shinmu. And because he possessed the 16-winged heavenly fiend god bloodline in his body, the healing effect of devouring the devil elixir was much stronger than devouring demonic elixir. One devil elixir allowed him to continuously recover from his injuries, and the recovery did not stop even after an hour. Although the injuries on his body were increasing, as the 3 Black Panther demon slaves became weaker and weaker, Kong Shinmu's condition very quickly recovered to his peak state. Die! Under the double enhancement of the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Art's strong offensive state and the Snow Wind Dragonstone, Kong Shinmu immediately erupted with the Void Dragon Raising Heaven Break. This move was originally a very simple elementary origin source dragon martial skill, but now it erupted with terrifying power. Chapter 45-36. As Kong Shinmu's side finally defeated the 3 Black Leopard demonic slaves, Xiao Yuhua and the other 3 finally worked together to kill the 2 Black Leopard demonic slaves and obtain their demonic cores. This was the proof of hunting demonic slaves, so they had to collect it. Kong Shinmu obtained 3 demonic cores alone, which could bring Kong Shinmu a lot of rewards. Obviously, he did not need to share the rewards of killing the 3 black leopard demonic slaves. Even if he wanted to share it with Xiao Yuhua and the others, they would not agree. After all, in the past year, Kong Shinmu had already given them half of the demon hunting points he exchanged for the 2 demonic commander demonic cores, which made them feel that they had made a huge profit. How could they still have the nerve to take away Kong Shinmu's spoils? These 3 demonic cores can be exchanged for at least 1 or 2 rising dragon marrow. However, I don't cultivate many origin dragon martial techniques, so it's useless to exchange for more rising dragon marrow. The main thing is that I haven't cultivated the divine dragon body technique and the wind shadow flowing cloud flash to the peak of the heaven tier, so I'm not in a hurry to exchange for the rising dragon marrow. I can consider exchanging for a stronger divine dragon martial technique. Of course, to exchange for a divine dragon martial technique, just these 3 demonic cores are far from enough. Kong Shinmu knew that among the rewards offered by the Dragon Martial Academy, the rising dragon marrow was one of the cheapest. Basically, many Dragon Emperor powerhouses had a few of them. After using them, their origin dragon martial technique would break through to the sage tier, and their power would increase by a large margin. Next was the divine dragon weapon. The value of the divine dragon weapon was extremely high. If one were to exchange for it with the demonic emperor demonic cores, they would need at least dozens of them. Even the Dragon Emperor powerhouses would find it difficult to obtain so many protection points. After all, these demonic slaves could not be killed so easily. If it was not for Kong Shinmu defeating the Dragon Emperor's opponents, they would need to use all their strength to kill them. It would not be as easy as Kong Shinmu and the others. Therefore, the number of Holy Spirit dragon weapons was already very low. Among the Dragon Emperor's experts, only a few of them managed to exchange for a human-ranked divine dragon weapon. To them, they were only qualified to exchange for a human-ranked divine dragon weapon. As for the better Earth-grade saintly spiritual dragon weapons, those that weren't students of the Dragon Martial Academy didn't have the right to exchange for them. Above the Holy Dragon weapon, the Holy Dragon martial skill was even more valuable. The value of the Holy Spirit Dragon martial technique was probably something that could only be exchanged by killing many powerful existences at the level of the Dragon Emperor mentor. Of course, if one used the number of monster cores of ordinary monster slaves to accumulate, it would be possible to accumulate more than 100 monster cores. The martial technique of the Holy Spirit Dragon was the target of many Dragon Emperor powerhouses. Previously, when they were hunting void demons, there were many Dragon Emperor powerhouses who had hunted enough superior demon generals and used more than 100 superior demon cores to exchange for the Holy Spirit Dragon martial technique. Of course, the Holy Spirit Dragon martial technique they exchanged for were only elementary Holy Spirit Dragon martial techniques. That was also the best thing that the Dragon Emperor powerhouses could exchange for. Other than these things that could increase one's strength, there were also many treasures of heaven and earth. These treasures of heaven and earth and cultivation resources were very beneficial to the cultivation of dragon martial artists, and the improvement of the grade of divine dragon blood essence. Treasures that could increase one's cultivation were not attractive to the Dragon Emperor powerhouses, but treasures that could increase the grade of divine dragon blood essence were very popular in the circle of Dragon Emperor powerhouses. Many people would rather increase the grade of divine dragon blood essence than save up demon hunting points to exchange for holy dragon weapons or Holy Spirit Dragon martial techniques. After all, many Dragon Emperor powerhouses still believed that their own strength was the most important. Dragon weapons and dragon martial techniques could only be regarded as external objects no matter what. Of course, the biggest problem that most Dragon Emperor powerhouses faced when increasing the grade of divine dragon blood essence was not the lack of energy in the dragon mark, but a bottleneck. Under such circumstances, they could use 4 to 5 times the amount of treasures of heaven and earth to forcibly break through the bottleneck. One could imagine how terrifying the amount of energy they needed from the dragon mark was. As for me, it's definitely better to exchange for treasures that contain dragon mark energy. Even if there's a bottleneck, I can use enough treasures of heaven and earth to forcibly break through the bottleneck. As long as I have enough guardian points, it will be smooth sailing for me to break through the grade of divine dragon blood essence. Within a year, I can at least break through to the 3rd level of Dragon Emperor. The grade of divine dragon blood essence at the 3rd level of Dragon Emperor was already a very powerful existence. With Jiang Xinwu's comprehensive strength in other aspects, once the grade of his divine dragon blood essence could reach the 3rd level of the Dragon Emperor realm, he would be ranked among the top 3 in the Dubhe district of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. In other words, he could finally reach the level of Yu Tianchong in the past. Of course, the prerequisite was that he could successfully break through the grade of divine dragon blood essence. Moreover, his cultivation realm could not be ignored. This was not easy, and the prerequisite was that he needed guardian points. Only with enough guardian points could he exchange for enough treasures of heaven and earth with dragon mark energy. I can only quickly improve my strength by obtaining enough guardian points in the battlefield of the 9 great clans. But I must be careful not to die here. Kong Shinmu sounded the alarm in his heart. The 5 black leopard demonic slaves were killed by them. This was considered a victory in the first battle. That's strange. These black leopard demonic slaves are very fast. If they wanted to escape, we might not be able to catch up with them. I didn't expect them to be so desperate. Ran flew over and met up with Kong Shinmu. She looked a little puzzled. Actually, it's easy to understand. Kong Shinmu smiled and said, "These demonic slaves are low-class servants in the Demon God clan. They are completely obedient to the Demon God clan. The order they received this time was to kill us. So before they kill us, they will never retreat, unless they receive another order to retreat." This was what the demonic god ancestor had told Kong Shinmu. In Kong Shinmu's sea of consciousness, the 16-winged heavenly demon god's consciousness was bored and said calmly, "If I'm not wrong, the people in charge of the demon god clan are eating, drinking, and having fun. They ignored the demonic slaves after they gave the order. After all, in their eyes, you are just a few pawns. How can you be a match for high-level demon emperor demonic slaves?" That's true. After hearing Kong Shinmu's words, Liang Xiao nodded in agreement. Maybe the people of the demon god clan don't care about us at all. We seem to have just entered the Samsara realm, and the 4 dragon emperors have just become dragon emperors. Logically speaking, these 5 black leopard demonic slaves are more than enough to kill us. But who knew that there was a monster among us? The 4 of them turned their gazes to Jiang Shenwu and laughed out loud. Don't be careless. Although we have gained something this time, it's not enough. Take advantage of the fact that both sides have just started probing each other. Kill as many as you can. It won't be so easy in the future. Kong Shinmu also laughed. Then his expression turned serious. Chapter 45-37. The 5 of them continued forward. After killing the 5 black leopard demon slaves, they became more and more cautious. They were always on guard against any powerful opponents appearing around them. However, they soon saw a barrier in the void in front of them. That barrier was in a translucent state, blocking them from the void crack, making it impossible for them to get close to the void crack. They're trying to trap all the dragon cultivators of our martial dragon continent inside this space. Kong Shinmu thought. He knew that through this void crack, they could go to the chaotic battlefield. But now, the exit of the void crack must have been hidden and could not be discovered by any other race. The 9 races that had invaded the martial dragon continent were all the opponents who wanted to compete for the martial dragon continent. Just these 9 races alone were not something that the martial dragon continent could deal with. Not to mention the martial dragon continent, even the dragon gods did not have the energy to pay attention to things here. The 9 races had joined forces to separate the void crack from the martial dragon continent. The situation had become completely reversed. Originally, Kong Shinmu and the others were guarding the supreme boundary to prevent the void monsters from coming out of the void crack. But now the situation had suddenly changed. It turned out that the 9 races were guarding the void crack and not letting the dragon warriors escape. This discovery made Kong Shinmu feel a little heavy. What method would he use to save the entire martial dragon continent? At this time in his mind, the demon god ancestor in his sea of consciousness faintly sent a thought. Kong Shinmu, the only way is for you to show your value and help the demon god race win the competition among the 9 races within 3 years. In that way, except for the demon god race, the other 8 races will naturally retreat. At that time, we can manipulate the demon god race, and perhaps the martial dragon continent will become the territory of you and the little princess. Who knows? The suggestion of the demon god ancestor made Kong Shinmu shake his head. However, the martial dragon continent had a lot of resources. It was originally a place for the dragon god race to nurture experts. If it was occupied by the demon god race, the 4 dragon martial academies and many other resources would definitely be taken by the demon god race. The best outcome would be for Kong Shinmu and Xueqi to become the overlords of the martial dragon continent. But in the end, the martial dragon continent would become the demon god race's territory. Once the demon god race issued an order, he, Kong Shinmu, would have to obey. This was too stifling. Ignoring everything else, if he really wanted to be together with Kong Shinmu and become the overlord of the martial dragon continent, he would have to do so as a demon god's bloodline cultivator. At that time, if the demon god race wanted him to deal with the martial dragon warrior, how would he choose? Kong Shinmu didn't know how to answer this simple multiple-choice question. Not to mention that there might be more problems in the future. In any case, this was not something that Kong Shinmu should be thinking about right now. The current him was too weak, and the things he had come into contact with were too few. It was beyond his power to save the martial dragon continent. At the very least, I have to come into contact with the upper echelons of the dragon god race. If that's the case, I have to think of a way to go to the chaotic battlefield, Kong Shinmu thought. In the martial dragon continent, the resources and experts he could come into contact with were limited. But if he went to the chaotic battlefield, it would be the world of true experts. All of this required him to have greater strength as a guarantee. Otherwise, if he went to the chaotic battlefield, he might not even know how he died. Throwing these thoughts to the back of his mind, Kong Shinmu returned to reality. He led the four of them to observe the translucent barrier in front of them. He shook his head and turned to leave. He didn't know if there were guards from the 9 great clans near the barrier. There might also be experts from the demon god race guarding it. It was definitely not appropriate to go there rashly. We have gained something this time. Let's go back first. In any case, Kong Shinmu only planned to exchange for some treasures that contained the energy of the dragon mark and try to break through to the Dragon King level of inheritance blood essence. Therefore, these 3 monster cores of the Black Leopard Demon Slave were enough for Kong Shinmu for the time being. The others were about the same. What they lacked now was basic strength. Therefore, they had to improve their divine dragon blood essence and cultivation level. These 2 kinds of cultivation resources were relatively not that expensive, and the points needed to exchange for them were not too many. Of course, it depended on how much you wanted to exchange for. If you wanted to exchange for cultivation resources that could raise your cultivation level by 1 level, or a level of divine dragon blood essence, then you needed a lot of points. The current points were called Guardian points. As long as they killed opponents from the 9 great clans, they could be counted in. Kong Shinmu and the others had won the first battle. They were the first to return among the first batch of exploration teams. When they returned to the Dragon Martial Fortress, many people were waiting for them. There were experts from the 4 Dragon Martial Academies, Mentor Dragon Emperor, and the original Dragon Emperor of the Dragon Martial Continent's Dragon Emperor Kingdom. Among them, many had already reached the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor. According to the rules, they could not step into the battlefield of the 9 great clans for the next year. Otherwise, it would be a violation of the rules. As for what would happen if they violated the rules, the 9 great clans did not say, but it was certainly not a good thing. Wasn't it a joke to compare the number of experts with the 9 great clans? This rule, in fact, only restricted the 9 great clans. It was a rule set by the 9 great clans. If there was no such rule, the Dragon Martial Continent would not be able to withstand the attacks of the 9 great clans. When Kong Shinmu and the others returned, when they saw that they were unscathed, but it was obvious that they had experienced a battle, many people began to whisper. Yu Yaji, the dean of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, came to greet them with the red-dressed beauty, Linghu Dai. How is the situation? They were also very nervous and concerned about the situation outside. After all, it concerned the fate of the entire Dragon Martial Continent. We encountered 5 demonic slaves from the Demon God clan. After killing them, we did not encounter any other opponents. Kong Shinmu nodded and said, the strength of the demonic slaves is average. They are about the same as some 7th-tier reincarnation tribulation demon emperors on the Dragon Martial Continent. However, they should be the weaker ones among the 9 great clans. Otherwise, they would not have been sent out as cannon fodder. Yes. Yu Yaji nodded. Chen Dai frowned slightly, obviously thinking about some problems. Of course, she could not say these problems. Chapter 45-38. Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy's office in the Longgu Fortress. Kong Shinmu's group of 5 returned with Yu Yaji, with Linghu Dai, guarding them. Along the way, Many Dragon Emperor's experts wanted to investigate the situation, but they were all chased away by Ling Hu Dai. After all, the situation was not clear. Even if they asked Kong Shinmu, it would be useless. If the 4 Dragon Martial Academies really had any important news, they would definitely announce it and not keep it to themselves. Now that the 9 races were here, the situation was more complicated. Although the 4 Dragon Martial Academies had different stances, they definitely wanted to prevent the Longwu continent from being taken away. In that case, everyone had the same goal, and some things were easier to negotiate. After returning to the office, Kong Shinmu took out the 3 Black Leopard demonic slaves and explained the situation of the battle to Yu Yaji. 5 Black Leopard demonic slaves appeared and were killed by Yu. Yu Yaji nodded and smiled. Although they were only demonic slaves, it was also a slap in the face to the Demon God clan. This time, other than the corresponding protection points, you will also receive many rewards. Where did these rewards come from? Kong Shinmu asked curiously. Yu Yaji glanced at him. There are some things that are not convenient for you to know now. Knowing will put you in danger. After all, you are not strong enough to get involved in this mess. The fate of the Longwu continent is closely related to all of us. But the real decision is made by the supreme experts. Emperor Shi does not have time to come for now. Things are more urgent on her side. So, she gave us some instructions for us to do. We just have to trust her. After hearing this, Kong Shinmu knew that everything was being handled by the Supreme Divine Dragon. Now that the Dragon Martial Continent was besieged by the 9 major races, even the Supreme Divine Dragon could not find the time to take care of the continent. He could only make arrangements on the continent. From the looks of it, Emperor Shi had made contact with someone, or perhaps some races, and then instructed them on some matters. Kong Shinmu was not qualified to know these things. But it was enough for him to know a little. At least, Yu Yaji's words made him understand that the Supreme Divine Dragon had not completely given up on the Longwu continent. I only killed 3 demonic slaves. What reward will the higher-ups give me? Kong Shinmu was not very interested in the reward. After all, he did not think it would be much. But the demon god ancestor still told him, this reward probably came from your Emperor Shi's discussion with a certain race. I just don't know which race Emperor Shi chose to work with. You will be rewarded for killing members of the Demon God Clan, Talisman Water Clan, and Void Human Clan. At the same time, there are 2 clans that have enmity with these 3 clans. One is the Ancient Phoenix Clan, and the other is the Devil King Clan. But I don't know which one. Let's see what reward they will give you. Maybe you can find out. Jiang Shenwu nodded. Yu Yaji then took out a jade bracelet carved with phoenix runes from her bosom. She took out a gray bag from the bracelet and said, this is the extra reward, the Phoenix Spirit Firestone. You've killed 5 royal demon slaves, so you'll be rewarded with 5 stones. As for how you'll split it among yourselves, you can decide. After saying that, he threw the gray bag to Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu took the gray bag. He had only opened a small opening when he felt an incomparably dense fire-attributed energy rushing towards him. He hurriedly closed it to prevent too much of the energy from leaking out. What's the use of the Phoenix Spirit Firestone? Kong Shinmu asked. Behind him, Xiao Yuhua, Ran Ran, Xiao Bai, and Liang Xiao were also curious. The Phoenix Spirit Firestone is a natural cultivation resource. Yu Yaji said with a smile, it doesn't exist in our Dragon Martial Continent. It's a special reward given by the higher-ups. Every Phoenix Spirit Firestone, upon activation, will be able to absorb a vast amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy and gather it within your body to aid your cultivation. To put it simply, the Phoenix Spirit Firestone can help you improve your cultivation base rapidly. Even a genius like Yu Tiangshang can save at least a year of hard cultivation by using 1 Phoenix Spirit Firestone. Hearing that, Kong Shinmu and the other 4's expressions suddenly changed. It should be noted that a genius like Yu Tiangshang could improve very quickly. But a Phoenix Spirit Firestone could actually save Yu Tianchong a year of cultivation? That was too exaggerated. I don't think I'm as talented as Yu Tiangshang. Liang Zhao's mood immediately heated up, and he couldn't help saying, so, this Phoenix Spirit Firestone can save me 2 or 3 years of hard cultivation? More or less. Yu Yaji glanced at Liang Xiao and said after a moment of estimation. These words dampened Liang Zhao's enthusiasm. It can't be, it's true? It seems that the gap between me and Yu Tiansheng is really that big? Sob, sob, sob. I don't want to live anymore. Sob my foot. Kong Xinmu knocked him on the head. Yu Tiansheng is a top genius, but she has now surpassed the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor, so she can't set foot on the battlefield of the 9 races for a year. If you work hard this year, you might be able to catch up with her. You're the only one who dares to think about catching up with her. Liang Xiao looked frustrated. He had never thought about catching up with someone at Yu Tiansheng's level. Who didn't know that Yu Tiansheng, like Feng Legay, was a top student of the 4 Dragon Martial Arts Academies. Now, they had both become Dragon Emperor mentors, and their strength was several times stronger than that of ordinary Dragon Emperor mentors. They were top genius dragon martial artists. Their geniuses were, first, their fast cultivation speed, and second, their stronger combat strength at the same level. Fast cultivation speed was a sign of high talent, but stronger combat strength at the same level was related to many aspects, such as dragon weapons, dragon martial skills, the control and use of power, and the attribute of one's own talent. All of these could affect the strength of one's combat strength. Therefore, some things were inborn, and Liang Xiao felt that he couldn't catch up with them. Many dragon martial artists who had just awakened became sky dragons or even holy dragons, while most dragon martial artists were just ordinary dragons or true dragons. That was the gap. It was basically impossible to catch up with those top geniuses by relying on hard work, unless they had a heaven-defying opportunity. In any case, this time, Kong Xinmu and the others had gained a lot. 5 Phoenix Spirit Fire Stones were priceless. Of course, they were only useful for the younger generation. For those who had reached the reincarnation tribulation realm and above, they were not of much use. I'll exchange these 5 monster cores for the protection points. I'll exchange them for some resources containing the energy of the dragon mark. Chapter 45-39. There were not many cultivation resources that contained dragon mark energy in the Dragon Martial Continent. For the Dragon Emperor powerhouses of the Dragon Martial Continent, these were extremely precious cultivation resources. But in the 4 Dragon Martial Academies, there were many such cultivation resources, and they were all from outside the Dragon Martial Continent. Before the crack in space appeared, there were quite a lot of such cultivation resources in the 4 great Dragon Martial Academies. However, very few people would choose to exchange for them. After all, the environment in the Dragon Martial Academy was already rich with dragon mark energy. But now, the Void Rift appeared, and it could be said that the Dragon Martial Continent and the Dragon Martial Academy were facing a crisis. The higher up, the less points they had, the more dragon mark energy resources they could exchange for. This way, there were more people exchanging for them. Originally, it was because too many points were needed to exchange, and ordinary Dragon Martial Academy students could not afford it. But since the appearance of demon hunting points, there were many Dragon Martial Academy students exchanging for such resources, and they also released a portion to the outside world for the Dragon Emperor powerhouses to exchange. This also increased the quality of the Divine Dragon Inheritance blood essence of the Dragon Emperor powerhouses in the outside world. Of course, many of the Dragon Emperor powerhouses in the outside world were stuck because of bottlenecks. Now, they basically exchanged for several times the amount of dragon mark energy resources to forcibly break through the bottleneck. No matter what method they used, it was a good thing to be able to improve. The overall strength of the Dragon Martial Continent increased, although not by much. It was better than being weak all the time. Kong Xinmu chose some cultivation resources that contained dragon mark energy. These cultivation resources are all from the world of the dragon gods, Yi Futian said. The demon god ancestor said to Kong Xinmu, "The dragon god's world is a vast world, and it is said to be even larger than the demon god's world. I have personally been there a few times, and I am also impressed by the magnificence of that world. The dragon god's world is said to be the birthplace of the divine dragons. Countless real ancient divine dragons were born in the dragon god's world, and after they died, they also returned to their homeland. The power left behind by the ancient divine dragons turned into countless dragon mark energy, enshrouding the surroundings. In the dragon god's world, the place where every ancient divine dragon died is a holy land. In those sacred grounds, there will be some cultivation resources that contain the energy of the dragon mark. There are many types of these cultivation resources. As you can see, a leaf, a small stone, a piece of green bamboo, and so on, all of them may contain rich dragon mark energy. Only those with supreme power are qualified to occupy a holy land. Of course, that was after all the primordial divine dragons had died out. Now, there are no real primordial divine dragons in the dragon god's great world. Even if there are very few. In ancient times, the ancient divine dragons were an extremely powerful race, and countless creatures submitted to them. Even I, a demon god ancestor, can't help but admire the power of the ancient divine dragons. Unfortunately, because of the chaotic heaven devouring dragons appeared. This is two chaos heaven is dragon. God. For example, the Phoenix Spirit Firestone you just obtained is a special product of the ancient Phoenix clan's world. It is enshrouded in the power source of the world, and it gives birth to a powerful force that can accumulate heaven and earth spiritual energy. Using the Phoenix Spirit Firestone can indeed increase one's cultivation realm rapidly, and there will be no side effects. The key is that the Phoenix Spirit Firestone is not a common item in the ancient Phoenix clan's world. It is unbelievable that they used it as a reward for you. The demon god ancestor still had some doubts about this. Kong Shinmu said, "This is the first time we have caused damage to the demon god race. Perhaps the higher-ups are only targeting this special reward. We won't be so lucky next time." Speaking of which, how are we going to distribute these 5 Phoenix Spirit Firestones? Kong Shinmu suddenly thought of this question. The demon god ancestor was in his sea of consciousness and roughly knew what he was thinking. He immediately laughed evilly. "Of course we will keep these 5 Phoenix Spirit Firestones for ourselves. Take 1 a year, and in 5 years you will be able to reach the peak of the Samsara realm. Of course, I know you are not that kind of person. You need to know that the Phoenix Spirit Firestone contains serious fire poison. If you only use 1, there will naturally be no problem. If you use 2 consecutively within a year, there will be problems with your body. When that time comes, you will need to find an existence at the level of a super divine dragon to resolve it. As for your devouring power, it will not be able to remove the fire poison. After all, your cultivation level is not high enough." Kong Shinmu nodded. In that case, he would not be bothered about the distribution of the Phoenix Spirit Firestones. He had obtained 60% of the Guardian points from killing the 5 Black Leopard demon slaves, which was already quite a lot. He could just split 1 Phoenix Spirit Firestone each. He could not be bothered to think too much about it. Anyway, he could only use 1 a year. As for the next year, Kong Shinmu believed that after each of them used 1 and improved their cultivation level, they would bring him even more surprises in the next year. Xiao Yuhua, Ran Ran, Liang Xiao, Xiao Bai, come over here. Each of you can take 1 Phoenix Spirit Firestone and use it to cultivate. Therefore, after Kong Shinmu went out, he gathered the 4 of them together. The cultivation of the Phoenix Spirit Firestone is a little big. Return to the headquarters of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy to cultivate. Of course, in reality, each of you can only have half a stone. You will have to return the other half to me in the future." Hearing Kong Shinmu say this, Liang Xiao could not help but roll his eyes. Of course, he knew that Kong Shinmu did this on purpose because he did not want them to feel like they owed him a favor. When the time came, if they really wanted to return something to Kong Shinmu might not accept it. Everyone understood Kong Shinmu's personality. With a tacit understanding, they did not say anything. They each took a Phoenix Spirit Firestone and planned to go back to cultivate. They walked toward the space-time matrix in the center of Dragon Martial Fortress. Along the way, they saw many dragon martial artists looking at them curiously. Obviously, they wanted to know what special reward Kong Shinmu and the others had received. After all, many people now knew that killing members of the 9 major races would give special rewards. Moreover, many dragon martial artists also heard that Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy mainly targeted the Demon God clan, the Void Human clan, and the Talisman Water clan. We obtained the Phoenix Spirit Firestone. Could it be that Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy has befriended the ancient Phoenix clan, one of the 9 major races? Kong Shinmu thought as he walked. This was still possible. Moreover, Emperor Shi's aura felt more like the aura of the ancient Phoenix clan to Kong Shinmu. Of course, he had never come into contact with the ancient Phoenix clan. However, the ancient Phoenix clan, didn't that mean the Phoenix? Although Emperor Shi was a dragon martial artist and had the bloodline of the divine dragon, there seemed to be another kind of power hidden in her body. That was the power of flames. Chapter 45-40. Qin Xiaoye. Kong Xinmu could not help but feel surprised when he saw who it was. The person in front was Qin Xiaoye from Donghuang Yonggu College. When Kong Xinmu first officially arrived at the Void Fisher battlefield, he and Qin Xiaoye had fought side by side. Both of them had gained quite a lot, and it was a rare collaboration between students from different Dragon Martial College. After such a long time, Kong Xinmu had almost forgotten about this person. He did not expect her to come looking for him today. Kong Xinmu, where have you been for the past year? Qin Xiaoye's expression eased when she saw that it was indeed Kong Xinmu who had stopped her. She was pretty, had a graceful figure, and was curvaceous in all the right places. In the Eastern Imperial Dragon Martial Academy, she could be considered a goddess-like figure. But now, she seemed to have a special liking for Jiang Shunwu. Ever since that incident, Qin Xiaoye had been thinking about Jiang Shunwu. Some young genius dragon martial artists had tried to woo her, but she had rejected all of them. I've been cultivating in the dragon martial continent for the past year. Kong Xinmu said what he had been saying all along. He looked behind Qin Xiaoye and saw Luo Han and Su Qin. However, the teammates from before were gone, replaced by two others. Liang Luo. Kong Xinmu could not help but be surprised when he saw this kid. He did not expect this kid to reach the level of being able to come to the Dragon Martial Fortress in a year. Kong Xinmu took a closer look and found that Liang Luo had inherited the essence blood of the Dragon Emperor. His cultivation had also reached the first level of the Samsara realm. He was definitely not weak. One must know that Liang Luo had worked together with Ran Ran in order to barely enter the Dragon Martial College. To think that now. Hee, Brother Jiang, we finally meet again. I've missed you so much. When Liang Luo saw Kong Xinmu, he laughed. He was not surprised at all. His admiration for Kong Xinmu could be seen in his eyes. All this time, he could only look up to Kong Xinmu's many accomplishments. But today, he could finally meet Kong Xinmu in the same draconic fortress. For the students who joined Donghuang Yonggu College at the same time as Ran Ran, the battlefield of the Void Rift was a little far away. After all, there were many things that their strength couldn't affect at all. Even the current Liang Luo could be said to have advanced by leaps and bounds in a year, but his strength was just barely enough to reach the Yuhing district. The Yuhing district was the minimum requirement to enter the Martial Dragon Fortress. If they didn't reach the Yuhing district, even if they took the initiative to apply, the academy wouldn't agree. Looks like you've been training hard recently. Kong Xinmu also nodded with a smile. He didn't expect Liang Luo to follow Qin Xiaoye. Qin Xiaoye's choice surprised Kong Xinmu. After all, Liang Luo's current strength was too far from Qin Xiaoye's. In a real battle of equal strength, Liang Luo might not even be qualified to help. Of course, how the other party chose their members was their business. Kong Xinmu couldn't be bothered to interrupt. Of course. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be able to see you for the rest of my life. You've improved too quickly. Liang Luo chuckled. I only have this little bit of cultivation right now, and it was all thanks to my father that I was able to rise so quickly. Otherwise, I would still be hanging around in the Eastern Emperor Dragon Martial Academy. So that was it. Hearing this, Kong Xinmu immediately understood. Liang Luo's father was the Dragon Emperor of Daliang. It could be said that the devil cores that Jiang Shenwu had given to the Great Liang's Great Liang Dragon Emperor was a part of the reward. Perhaps a lot of it was given to Liang Luo, which allowed this kid to improve so quickly. Kong Xinmu, how about having a meal together? We haven't seen each other for a long time. Qin Xiaoye smiled at Kong Xinmu. Sure. Kong Xinmu thought about it. It's been a long time since I've had a gathering with friends. It's good to take a break. Everything that had happened in the past year had made him a little tired. However, no matter how tiring it was, he had to persevere. The group headed to a restaurant in the Longgu Fortress. This restaurant was a public property built by a Dragon Emperor powerhouse. It wasn't under the jurisdiction of the Longgu Academy. After all, they were students from different Longgu academies. It wasn't convenient to go to the property of Emperor Shi's Longgu Academy or Donghuang Yonggu College. After entering the restaurant, the manager arranged a private room for them. Who in the Longgu Fortress didn't know the name of Kong Xinmu? He was in the first batch of students to go against the 9 major races. Although he wasn't very strong, It was also because of this that he had some reference value. As soon as the manager saw Kong Shinmu, he immediately got to work and didn't let Kong Shinmu worry at all. The Longwu Fortress was a fortress built in the sky. The main body of the fortress was used to fill the gap in the sky barrier. Later on, an additional floor was built above the main body to house various public properties. For example, the offices of the 4 Longwu academies were located on this floor. Below this floor was the main body of the Longwu Fortress, which was also the most crucial place to protect the Longwu continent. Ordinary people couldn't enter that floor. It was said that only the older generation of Dragon Emperor mentors were qualified to enter that floor, and they were mainly there to guard it. In one of the private rooms of the restaurant, Jiang Xinwu and Qin Xiaoye sat at a table with 4 people, a total of 10 people. All kinds of sumptuous dishes were served one after another. Kong Shinmu. Let me introduce you. He's Zhu Wudi, and he's always admired you. When they arrived at the restaurant, Qin Xiaoye introduced the other person she brought to Kong Shinmu. Other than Luo Han, Su Qin, and Liang Luo, there was also a cold-looking young man. The young man's name was Zhu Wudi. Although this young man's name was so cold, at this moment, his eyes were filled with admiration as he looked at Jiang Xinwu. Big brother Jiang Xinwu, ever since you joined the Eastern Imperial Dragon Martial Academy and participated in the Academy tournament for the first time, I've admired you a lot. Originally, I wanted to befriend you, but it's a pity that I didn't have the chance. The cold-looking young man sighed and raised his wine cup to Kong Shinmu. It's all because of Qin Xiaoye's recommendation that I was able to get to know you, big brother. I've been working with Qin Xiaoye recently, and when I heard about what happened last time, I felt sorry for you. Kong Shinmu glanced at him. This Zhu Wudi's cultivation was not low, and he was even on par with Qin Xiaoye. The cultivation of the 5th level of the Rebirth Tribulation Realm and the inherited blood essence of the Divine Dragon at the 4th level of the Dragon Monarch Realm were existences that could crush Jiang Xinwu. Of course, his true combat strength should be about the same as Qin Xiaoye's. Chapter 45-41. When Kong Shinmu joined Donghuang Yonggu College for the first time, he was probably already a student in the Yuhing district, or even the Migres district. How could he have noticed Kong Shinmu? However, Kong Shinmu was not surprised. After all, he had performed outstandingly in the first college competition. At that time, I could tell that Lin Yuji wasn't that strong. There was definitely something fishy about her defeating you that day, Zhu Wudi said in a low voice. Zhu Wudi lowered his voice and said, Later, after some investigation, I contacted senior sister Yu Tiangsheng by chance, and I finally learned that our dean was the one who did it. This discovery terrified me. I don't dare to talk about the dean, but I admire big brother Kong Shinmu's talent. It would be great if I could fight alongside you one day. Big brother Kong Shinmu, you may not know this, but I was already a student in the Migres district at that time. But after I met you, I felt that you would surpass me one day. Later it proved that my feeling was right. Now, you're definitely stronger than me. His words made Kong Shinmu's hair stand on end. After all, this guy called Kong Shinmu big brother, but on the surface, it seemed that Kong Shinmu was just a young man, while this guy looked like a wily old fox. He looked like he was in his mid-20s. In any case, it seemed that Zhu Wudi knew that Kong Shinmu was forced to leave Donghuang Yonggu College. If they were given a chance, perhaps Qin Xiaoye and the others would not have stayed in Donghuang Yonggu College. However, they did not have a talent like Kong Shinmu, nor did they have a big shot like Yu Tiangsheng to protect them. It was basically impossible for them to leave Donghuang Yonggu College and transfer to another Dragon Martial College. Therefore, they could only endure it and improve themselves first in Donghuang Yonggu College. Anyway, no matter how disgusting Zhou Xiaofeng was, he would not be disgusting to every student. As for Qin Xiaoye, ever since she cooperated with Kong Shinmu to defeat a high-ranked devil general, the rumors about her from the students of Donghuang Yonggu College weren't very good. They said that she was together with the treacherous Kong Shinmu and was simply a disgrace to Donghuang Yonggu College. In truth, the students of the Dragon Martial Academy rarely gossiped about other people's matters. However, this matter was discussed quite a lot in Donghuang Yonggu College. Even Qin Xiaoye's 2 original friends had said the same thing about her, causing her to kick them out in a fit of anger. Later on, Liang Cheng and Zhu Wudi joined. The main reason was that Zhu Wudi's participation had raised the overall strength of Qin Xiaoye's team to a whole new level. Later on, when they hunted demonic creatures, they had gained quite a lot, and their strength had improved rapidly. Their status in Donghuang Yonggu College had also risen. After all, in this world, everything depended on one's strength. For example, now that Qin Xiaoya had come to eat with Kong Xinmu, the other students of Donghuang Yonggu College did not dare to say anything even if they wanted to. Everyone chatted as they ate, mainly about the invasion of the Dragon Martial Continent by the 9 major races. Of course, Qin Xiaoya did not ask Kong Xinmu about the situation this time. She had not invited Kong Xinmu to eat to ask about this. It was purely an exchange between friends. During the meal, Zhu Wudi spoke with fervor and assurance. He and Kong Xinmu could be considered to have gotten to know each other. As for Qin Xiaoya, she frequently observed Kong Xinmu. She always felt that he had a unique charm. Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai did not speak much. It was just a conversation between best friends. Little White couldn't stop eating. She loved to eat to begin with, and now she couldn't stop. As for Ran Ran, she sat next to Kong Xinmu and kept putting food into his bowl. Qin Xiaoya was a little envious, but if she really had to put food into Kong Xinmu's bowl, she was still a little afraid. It could only be said that everyone now knew that the relationship between Kong Xinmu and Ran Ran was extremely close. As for how close they were, no one knew. Liang Xiao and Liang Luo, because they both had the surname Liang, struck up a conversation. Unexpectedly, the more they chatted, the more they got along. After all, the two of them were bold and unrestrained, and they became even more spirited when they chatted together. Luo Han and Su Qin looked like they were about to become partners. They were also very close to each other. Their strength did not increase slowly. Compared to the last time Kong Xinmu saw them, they had both increased the grade of their inherited blood essence by 1 level and their cultivation base by 1 level. For an ordinary dragon martial artist to improve this much in a year was already very fast. It was mainly because of the increase in the grade of the divine dragon's blood essence. Advancing from the first level of the Dragon Emperor to the second level was a huge milestone. This meant that they were no longer at the level of the new Dragon Emperor. They officially had the qualifications to challenge the Dragon Emperor nation's Dragon Emperor powerhouses. Generally speaking, this process would not be too slow even if it took 10 years. In the 4 great Dragon Martial Academies, if one could use 10 years to complete the first to second level of the Dragon Emperor, there was a hope of becoming a Dragon Emperor mentor in the future. In fact, Luo Han and Su Qin's talent had not reached this level. The key was that with the opening of the Void Rift battlefield, they had more channels to obtain cultivation resources. The points needed to exchange for cultivation resources had also decreased, which was why they could improve so quickly. This was the common situation of the 4 great Dragon Martial Academies. In the past half a year, the improvement of the Dragon martial artists had slowed down, mainly because the Void Demons had retreated and adopted a defensive stance. However, now that the 9 major races had invaded the Dragon Martial Continent and set up many rules. In this kind of environment, the 4 great Dragon Martial Academy students faced a crisis, and it was probably a good opportunity for them to improve quickly. Previously, when the Void Rift battlefield first opened, some students did not grasp the opportunity and did not go out to earn demon hunting points. They regretted it later. This time, the 9 major races had invaded the Dragon Martial Continent, and this portion of the students was eager to take the opportunity to improve themselves. When Kong Xinmu saw Qin Xiaoya, Zhu Wudi, Luo Han, and Su Qin all looking forward to it, his face darkened. The words of the demon god ancestor constantly reminded him in his mind that the situation this time was completely different from the invasion of the void aberrations. The invasion of the void demons was indeed to occupy the Dragon Martial Continent. But at that time, the supreme dragon god still had time to come over and help defend. Therefore, the demon god race had only sent void demons, and their main purpose was to investigate. But this time, the 9 major races were serious. The key was that the supreme experts of the dragon god race had no time to care about the Dragon Martial Continent. Therefore, the 9 major races could be said to be unscrupulous. Of course, it was a good thing that the 9 major races restrained each other. This meant that at least there would not be supreme experts coming to this battlefield. I understand how you feel. After all, when something like this happens, it means that you have a chance to improve quickly. Chapter 45-42. Qin Xiaoya was slightly taken aback by Kong Xinmu's reminder, but she quickly recovered and nodded solemnly. Thank you for the reminder. If not for Kong Shinmu's reminder, Qin Xiaoya, who had had a smooth journey, might really have thought that the invasion of the 9 races was the same as the invasion of the demonic creatures. If she was careless, she might have encountered an accident. However, even though she had responded to Kong Shinmu, she clearly did not take it to heart. Most importantly, in her opinion, Kong Shinmu's strength was about the same as hers, and her team had Ju Wudi to help her. Since Kong Shinmu could return alive, they could too. Of course, after Kong Shinmu's reminder, she had become more careful. Kong Shinmu could also tell that she had taken his reminder to heart, but she did not take it to heart. This made Kong Shinmu sigh inwardly, but he did not say much. If he did, Qin Xiaoya would probably find him a little annoying. There was no need for that. Although they were friends, and Kong Shinmu did not want to see anything happen to them, he could not be too careless when dealing with girls. So, Kong Shinmu looked at Ju Wudi. Ju Wudi, why don't we go and spar now? I've been cultivating in the Dragon Continent for a year, and I don't know what level I'm at now, nor do I know what level the geniuses of the Dragon Martial Academy have reached. Ju Wudi was a little surprised to hear this. I heard that Brother Kong Shinmu's talent is the ability to devour and counterattack. It's rare to see someone with these 2 abilities at the same time. I've wanted to see it for myself since a long time ago. There was a hint of hostility in their words, but no one took this friendly spar to heart. Haha, please. Kong Shinmu laughed. The meal was almost over. Since Kong Shinmu wanted to exchange pointers with Ju Wudi, the others naturally wanted to observe. Little did he know, Kong Shinmu didn't propose to compare notes with Ju Wudi because he wanted to see his strength. He just wanted a chance to be alone with Ju Wudi, and to remind him to be careful when he went out. After all, the 9 races were invading the Martial Dragon Continent at the same time. The danger was unimaginable. Moreover, Qin Xiaoya had brought along Kong Shinmu's friends. Whether it was Luo Han, Su Qin, or Liang Liang, the son of the Dragon Emperor of Lianglong Country, Kong Shinmu didn't want anything to happen to them. The sparring session was set to take place in the Martial Dragon Fortress's plaza. Although the number of martialists in the Martial Dragon Fortress was not small, it was still much smaller than some of the cities on the Martial Dragon Continent. After all, those who were strong enough to come to the Martial Dragon Fortress were not weaklings. The plaza was built for martialists from all over. It was a place for them to spar and discuss dragon martial techniques. When Kong Shinmu and Qin Xiaoya arrived at the plaza, they found that there were not many people there. Only a few people had watched the previous duel and hadn't left yet. Clearly, there were not many people in the plaza. Only Dragon Emperor level experts were qualified to bring their Dragon King subordinates to the Martial Dragon Fortress. Apart from some Dragon Emperor countries who had grudges against Dragon Emperor countries, very few people would spar in the plaza. On the other hand, many Dragon King and students from different Martial Dragon Academies liked to spar here. For the students of the various Martial Dragon Academies, sparring grounds had always been a problem. After all, students from different Martial Dragon Academies did not want to spar in their opponent's home ground. That would affect them greatly. And if it was their home ground, their opponent would be unwilling. Therefore, for the sake of compromise, the plaza became a place for students to spar. When Kong Shinmu's group of 10 arrived at the entrance of the plaza, a 4th-level Dragon Emperor expert, who had reached the Dragon Emperor level, squinted his eyes and said, "Young men, do you want to spar in the plaza? There's a fee, 10 guardian points or demon hunting points per person." This Dragon Emperor expert looked old. He had white hair and a white beard, and his long hair was wrapped around his waist. It was unknown how long he had kept it. "There's a fee in the plaza? Why haven't I heard of it before?" Qin Xiaoya was stunned and began to size him up. "There wasn't in the past, but there is today." The white-haired and white-bearded old Dragon Emperor chuckled and said, "After all, a lot of resources were invested in the construction of the plaza. But now, it has become a commonplace for everyone. Isn't it a huge loss for us to invest in the construction of the plaza? Moreover, since yesterday, there have been more and more dragon martial artists coming to the plaza to spar. After all, the battle against the 9 major races is about to begin, so there's a fee to line up. It's lucky that you guys came late, or else there would be people lining up to spar." Hearing this, everyone was a little skeptical. After all, they had never heard of such a situation before. 10 demon hunting points. It's not a lot. I'll give it to you. Before anyone could say anything, Kong Shinmu spoke. To him, 10 demon hunting points was indeed not a lot. It was equivalent to killing a middle-level devil spirit on the battlefield. Of course, there were no middle-level devil spirits on the battlefield of the Void Fisher anymore. 10 demon hunting points could be exchanged for some cultivation resources, no matter what. Not bad, little brother. You're an honest man. The white-haired, white-bearded old man chuckled. However, when I said 10 demon hunting points, I'm not talking about one time. Both sides have to pay. Which two of you want to spar? I'll go. Hearing this, Ju Wudi wanted to beat someone up. Old senior, aren't you cheating us? How are we going to earn demon hunting points now? As for guardian points, not many people have them now. You're simply making things difficult for us. How could he have any demon hunting points left? If he had, he would have spent them long ago. All the students of the Dragon Martial Academies were basically like this. They would exchange their demon hunting points for things that were useful to them and could increase their strength. Why would they keep them on them unless they wanted to exchange for something important? For example, Holy Dragon Martial Techniques, Holy Dragon Weapons, and so on. Ju Wudi did not have any demon hunting points left. This was the situation of ordinary students. It was extremely rare to see someone as rich and imposing as Kong Shinmu. Therefore, Ju Wudi directly said that he did not have any. The white-haired, white-bearded old Dragon Emperor said shamelessly, "If you can't afford the points, then find somewhere else to spar. Don't come to our martial arts forum. Young man, do you understand?" Kong Shinmu did not care about the 10 demon hunting points. However, he felt that this old man was a little too much. Although he could pay for Ju Wudi, was it really reasonable for this old man to charge him? Or was this old man just trying to extort him? Sigma. Chapter 45-43. Seeing that Ju Wudi wasn't going to comply, the old Dragon Emperor said nonchalantly, "If you can't pay, then don't come here to spar. Go, go, go." He stood at the entrance of the martial arts exchange, making Ju Wudi and the others gnash their teeth in anger. What's wrong with this old man? Just when everyone was at a loss, a figure walked past the old Dragon Emperor and headed straight for the martial arts exchange. It was Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu didn't care. He hadn't paid his demon hunting points yet. However, he wasn't worried at all. Although he didn't know if he needed demon hunting points to spar in the martial arts exchange, he didn't need to pay to spectate, right? So, at most, he wouldn't go up and find someone to spar with. Seeing that Kong Shinmu was heading straight for the martial arts exchange, the old Dragon Emperor snorted, "You want to enter the martial arts exchange without paying?" As soon as he finished speaking, he wanted to catch up to Jiang Shenwu and stop him. However, Kong Shinmu pointed at the martial arts exchange. "There are so many spectators inside. Do I have to pay to spectate?" Hearing this, the old Dragon Emperor felt a little awkward and stopped. "If you're just going in to spectate, of course you don't have to. Then what are we waiting for?" Liang Xiao and Liang Luo chuckled. They took the lead and walked in, following Kong Shinmu. Xiao Yuhua, Qin Xiaoya, and the others didn't hesitate and walked in. Everyone stepped into the martial arts exchange, but the old Dragon Emperor didn't chase after them. "I keep having the feeling that old fellow is deceiving people. I heard my father say that this martial arts symposium is free to come and go as you please, and it won't charge any fees at all. This was built by all the Dragon Emperor experts, and speaking of which, my father has a share." Liang Luo said, "Really? Why don't you ask your dad if this martial arts exchange has a fee?" Hearing this, Liang Zhao's eyes lit up. "I'll call him over now." Liang Luo snorted softly. He was quite dissatisfied with the old Dragon Emperor. His father, the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang, was now the inheritor of the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor's inheritance. Among the experts of the Dragon Emperor, he was also regarded as one of the top figures, with high prestige. In that case, let's wait for Senior Dragon Emperor of Great Liang to come first. Kong Shinmu smiled and led the crowd to the spectator area of the martial arts symposium. At this time, there were still some people in the spectator stands who had not left. They had just finished watching the spar. "Hey, isn't that Kong Shinmu?" In the spectator stands, there were a few students from the Dragon Martial Academy who saw Jiang Shenwu very quickly. They were about to leave when they saw him. I heard that Kong Xinmu and Qin Xiaoye are quite close. It seems that's true after seeing them today. They were all students of Donghuang Yangwu College, and they were quite familiar with Kong Xinmu, Qin Xiaoye, and Zhu Wudi. Among them were Bao Peng and Qin Shouji. The two had just arrived at Yuhing district not long ago, and they had long heard that Kong Xinmu was with Qin Xiaoye. Their strength was at least at the Jade district level. Now it seemed that it was true. This kid, Bao Peng and Qin Shouji, were not very close to Kong Xinmu. However, they could be considered friends. Qin Shouji had a sharp tongue, but his heart was not too bad. Zhu Wudi and Qin Xiaoye are great geniuses of our Donghuang Yangwu College. If Kong Xinmu is with them, he must be very strong. It's a pity that our strength was similar to Kong Xinmu's in the past. I didn't expect the gap to be so big in just a few years. Bao Peng and Qin Shouji sighed. Their talent could only be considered average. Qin Fengyu and Lu Hua only had average talent and strength. Therefore, they could only look up to Kong Xinmu now. As for the rumor circulating in Donghuang Yangwu College that Kong Xinmu was a traitor, Bao Peng and Qin Shouji did not believe it at all. Kong Xinmu was a traitor? Loyalty was more like it. There must be someone behind this, and it was someone they could not afford to offend. Therefore, they did not care much about this matter and focused on improving themselves. Could it be that Kong Xinmu, Zhu Wudi, and Qin Xiaoye came to the martial arts forum to spar? That's possible. The two saw Kong Xinmu and the others coming in and started guessing. This immediately piqued their interest. Zhu Wudi was now at the 5th level of the Rebirth Tribulation Realm. Dragon Emperor was at the 4th level, and so was Qin Xiaoye. As for Kong Xinmu, he had not yet reached the Dragon Emperor, and his cultivation was only at the 9th level of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm. He was only a small step away from the Dragon Emperor and the Rebirth Tribulation Realm. Under such circumstances, did Kong Xinmu really want to spar with them? Not long after, Great Liang's Dragon Emperor, who was resting in the Dragon Martial Fortress, was called over by his son Liang Luo and flew straight to the martial arts forum. Dad, we just wanted to come in to spar, but the old Dragon Emperor at the door wants to charge us? Liang Luo did not waste any time and directly complained to his father. Great Liang's Dragon Emperor had a strong figure, and his 2 tufts of beard seemed to have not been cut for a long time. He was probably busy cultivating and did not pay much attention to his own image. When he heard Liang Luo's words, he said, Where? There are people in this martial arts forum who want to charge fees? I participated in the construction of this martial arts forum, so I can be considered the founder. How come I don't know about it? His anger flared up, and he directly flew towards the entrance of the martial arts forum. In the end, he did not find anyone and came back angrily. He ran away. I don't know where this wild Dragon Emperor came from, but he dared to behave atrociously in the Dragon Martial Fortress. Don't worry, as long as no one comes to this place, you can go up and spar as you please. There is absolutely no charge. Kong Xinmu naturally believed what Great Liang's Dragon Emperor said. Poor old Dragon Emperor. Originally, it would have been good to have 10 demon hunting points, but now, he did not even get a single point, and ran away to hide. Although it was the old Dragon Emperor, and he had the blood essence of the 4th level of the Dragon Emperor's inheritance, the old Dragon Emperor would definitely not dare to face Great Liang's Dragon Emperor head-on. Who are you guys who want to spar? At this time, Great Liang's Dragon Emperor glanced at the crowd curiously. Zhu Wudi, let's go up and spar. Only then did Kong Xinmu feel relieved, knowing that he did not violate the rules. As for where the old Dragon Emperor went, he did not care at all. Anyway, he could not be provoked. Let's go, haha. Zhu Wudi was very forthright. With a wave of his sleeve, he flew towards the field, and instantly turned into a green dragon. Seeing Zhu Wudi enter the field, the surrounding dragon martial artists who were about to leave stopped one after another. Someone else is going up to spar. It's Zhu Wudi from Donghuang Yangwu College. Who wants to spar with him? Is it Qin Xiaoye? They are all moving together now. It is normal for them to get to know each other's strength. Bullshit, it's Kong Xinmu. Look, Kong Xinmu is going up. Chapter 45-44. Zhu Wudi transformed into a green divine dragon. He had the power of the wind attribute, and his name was the Mystic Lunar Wind Dragon. His entire body was green, with some light blue lines. The grade of the Dragon Emperor's 4th level inheritance blood essence made his divine dragon body look more than twice as big as Kong Shinmu's. Of course, this was not the main point of this spar. After Kong Shinmu came up, he transformed into a black dragon and directly attacked. The surrounding people watched with relish, but this time, Kong Shinmu did not use the Wind Snow Dragon Stone, and was almost killed by Xueqi in a head-on fight. Fortunately, he used the Divine Dragon Tyrant body art to defend himself. To the spectators, they did not know that Kong Shinmu did not use his full strength. Seeing that Kong Shinmu could withstand so many moves from Xueqi, they already felt that he was very strong. After all, the grade of Kong Shinmu's Divine Dragon Blood Essence and Cultivation Realm were much lower than Xueqi's. If not for the fact that he had cultivated a variety of body-tempering dragon martial skills, he would not be able to withstand Xueqi's attack. If the other dragon warriors were to cultivate the body-refining type dragon martial skill, they would naturally be able to achieve the same effect. However, on one hand, it was too slow for others to cultivate the body-refining type dragon martial skill. On the other hand, if others were to cultivate the body-refining type dragon martial skill, they would not have the slightest bit of attack power. Just like Kong Shinmu's current appearance. But Kong Shinmu relied on the devouring power to burst out a stronger attack, relying on defense to cause more lethality, and was different from ordinary dragon martial artists with strong defense. After all, it was just a spar, and the winner had not been determined. Xueqi might not have used his full strength, and defeating Kong Shinmu at this time was not good for him. In any case, he did not feel that Kong Shinmu had used his full strength, so he did not want to use his full strength. When they left the arena, Kong Shinmu came up to him and said in a low voice, "By the way, it's not convenient to tell Qin Xiaoya before. After all, she's a girl, and I can't say it too many times. But I still have to tell you that it's more dangerous outside this time. The servants of the 9 major races are fine, but if the real members of the 9 major races show up, you'd better run immediately. Generally speaking, they'll use the servants to test us, and then the real members will attack and kill us. The lives of us dragon warriors are considered military exploits for the 9 great clans. It's something they want to compete with, so we can't be careless." This was the second time Xueqi had heard Kong Shinmu warn him of the danger this time. His expression was also solemn. "Yes, don't worry. I will pay attention. Even if they are a little relaxed, if something really happens, I can handle it." He also had some tricks up his sleeve. Even if he encountered danger, he still had a way to escape. Of course, the prerequisite was that he had enough vigilance. Otherwise, if he was ambushed, it would really be over. He just had to be vigilant. When Kong Shinmu saw that Xueqi had taken it to heart, he was relieved. After everyone went their separate ways, Kong Shinmu and the other 4 directly returned to Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. They were looking forward to the power of the Phoenix Spirit Firestone. They wanted to see what level they could break through to after using it. It was the same for Kong Shinmu. Will the Phoenix Spirit Firestone and the Dragon Mark energy resources that I exchange this time be able to make a breakthrough in both aspects? The grade of the Divine Dragon Blood Essence and the Cultivation Realm. Breakthroughs in every aspect would allow Kong Shinmu's strength to rise to the next level. This time, the Phoenix Spirit Firestone might be able to help him break through to the Reincarnation Tribulation Realm. As for the grade of the Divine Dragon Blood Essence, in comparison, it might not be able to improve and break through to the level of the Dragon Emperor. One had to know that the grade of Kong Shinmu's Divine Dragon Blood Essence had only reached the 9th level of the Dragon King not long ago. If he was in a hurry to improve now, there would be some side effects. There was no need to rush. Phoenix Spirit Firestone. Let's see how powerful this treasure from the ancient Phoenix clan is. Kong Shinmu narrowed his eyes. He returned to his palace alone and then took out the Phoenix Spirit Firestone. This Phoenix Spirit Firestone emitted fire elemental power. As long as it was activated, it would explode and condense the fire elemental power into a vortex that would absorb the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth. This would cause a huge commotion. Hence, he needed to cultivate under the threat of Emperor Shi, who was absolutely safe. Otherwise, even in the Longwu Fortress, the defense would not be as tight as the one in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Even if Yu Tianchong uses this item, she can save a year of cultivation time. It seems that this Phoenix Spirit Firestone can absorb a huge amount of spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Kong Shinmu was looking forward to it. Let's begin. He infused the spiritual chi of heaven and earth into the Phoenix Spirit Firestone and activated it. Immediately after, he saw the Phoenix Spirit Firestone emit an incomparably strong fire elemental power. It condensed into the illusion of a fiery red phoenix in midair in the courtyard of his palace. As soon as this fiery red phoenix illusion appeared, it began to frantically absorb the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Then, it sprayed the spiritual chi of heaven and earth out of its mouth, and all of it fell onto Kong Shinmu's body like a waterfall. So this is how it works. Kong Shinmu glanced at it and was instantly elated. This was similar to absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. If it were someone else, they would probably not even be able to absorb half of the spiritual chi that poured down like a waterfall. However, Kong Shinmu could use the power of devouring to completely devour the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. His absorption rate was 100%. This was similar to absorbing the spiritual chi of other treasures of heaven and earth. The difference was that the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the Phoenix Spirit Firestone was not contained within itself, but absorbed from the surroundings. Countless amounts of heaven and earth spiritual chi were absorbed and then condensed into the fiery red phoenix image. This Phoenix Spirit Firestone was not a natural item, but it contained some special runes, which was why it could condense the fiery red phoenix image and absorb the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual chi. Countless spiritual chi of heaven and earth poured down. Without any hesitation, Kong Shinmu directly unleashed the power of devouring from all over his body. He transformed into a black dragon and bathed in the fiery red phoenix. Endless spiritual chi of heaven and earth was constantly absorbed into his body and absorbed into his own power. Even Yu Tianchong can probably only absorb 60% to 70% of the spiritual chi, right? But I can absorb all the spiritual chi. This is the difference between different people who use the Phoenix Spirit Firestone. I wonder how Ran and the others are doing? Of course, Kong Shinmu had no time to think about others now. He had to ensure that he could break through to the Reincarnation Tribulation Realm in one go, or even directly rush to the second level of the Reincarnation Tribulation Realm. Just like the Nirvana Tribulation Realm, there was no second reincarnation behemoth in the first few levels of the Reincarnation Tribulation Realm. In other words, one could not condense the power of reincarnation. Moreover, the black dragon consciousness in Kong Shinmu's body was now restrained by the demon god ancestor's consciousness. There was no need for him to go to the dragon sealing abyss to make a breakthrough. Chapter 45-45. On this day, something strange happened in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. 5 fiery red phoenixes appeared in 5 different places in the Academy's student palaces. They looked up at the sky and absorbed the spiritual chi of the heavens and the earth around them. Then, more and more reincarnation beasts appeared in the sky above Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. This had happened before. After all, breakthroughs were common in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. Many students were very familiar with the reincarnation beasts and nirvana beasts. However, it was different this time. This time, 5 reincarnation beasts appeared in succession, and they all appeared in the same places where the 5 fiery red phoenixes were. It looks like Kong Shinmu and the other 4. It's really the 5 of them. They actually broke through at the same time. It looks like they received some incredible reward. I heard that they did something big in the Longgu Fortress. I wonder if it's the reward for that? Most of the students who stayed in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy had not gone to Yuhing District. There were more of them than before, but most of them had average strength. There were also some powerful students who stayed in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. They were surprised to see this. At the same time, 5 people absorbed a large amount of spiritual chi of the heavens and the earth. The spiritual chi of the heavens and the earth around the 5 palaces gathered together. It was even mixed with the energy of the dragon mark. It formed a storm that enveloped the sky above the 5 palaces. The storm of spiritual chi of the heavens and the dragon mark's energy was continuously absorbed by the people in the palaces. It poured down like a waterfall, and this continued for 3 days and 3 nights. The 5 reincarnation beasts all appeared at the end of the second day. On this day, sounds of intense fighting came from 5 different places in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy. They were fighting the reincarnation beasts and breaking through to the next realm. What no one expected was that at the end of the 3rd day, another reincarnation beast appeared in the sky above Kong Shinmu's palace. He had broken through 2 realms in a row. With Kong Shinmu's combat strength, It was easy for him to defeat the reincarnation beast. 3 days later, the strange phenomenon in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy finally subsided. Everyone knew that Kong Shin-mu, who had always been heaven-defying, was probably even more heaven-defying now. I've broken through 2 realms consecutively and reached the 2nd realm of the rebirth tribulation realm. Kong Shin-mu watched as the red phoenix phantom dissipated. He was quite satisfied with the 3 days of cultivation. His results were remarkable. All of the heaven and earth spiritual chi gathered by the Phoenix Spirit Firestone, including all of the Dragon Mark's energy, were all absorbed by him, not sparing a single bit. This allowed him to break through 2 realms in a row and directly reach the 2nd realm of the rebirth tribulation realm. Kong Shin-mu sensed that his devouring power had been assimilated by the Black Dragon's consciousness, and there was still a little bit of it that hadn't completed its transformation. However, when he broke through to the rebirth tribulation realm, that last bit of devouring power directly transformed. Now, his devouring power and the speed at which it was devouring power had almost tripled from before. Originally, if an opponent at the level of absolute invincible realm used the Dragon Martial technique to attack Kong Shin-mu, then Kong Shin-mu could see the speed of the opponent's Dragon Martial technique and be able to devour about half of the opponent's power before the Dragon Martial technique hit him. However, now that the devouring power had transformed from devouring the power of nirvana to devouring the power of samsara, the devouring speed had increased by 3 times. This allowed him to completely devour the power of absolute invincible realm and use it for his own use. This was an incomparably terrifying transformation. However, it seems that the Black Dragon's consciousness is helping me by assimilating my devouring power? Kong Shin-mu felt a little strange. Until now, the Black Dragon's consciousness still refused to communicate with him, and also refused to communicate with the power of the demon god ancestor. However, he could see that the Black Dragon's consciousness seemed to have no intention of harming him, or rather, it had no intention of harming him for the time being. The transformation of the devouring power had increased Kong Shin-mu's strength by more than 1 level. Now, he was truly qualified to fight against a powerhouse like the Dragon Emperor. He might not be able to reach the heavenly pivot region. However, his strength was at least twice as strong as before, which had a great impact on Kong Shin-mu. Now, if he were to fight against the previous Black Leopard demon slaves, he could fight against 5 of them and kill them without any pressure. After all, the 5 Black Leopard demon slaves were only the most common Emperor-level demon slaves, equivalent to the 1st level of the Dragon Emperor's Divine Dragon Inheritance Blood Essence. In terms of the grade of Blood Essence, Kong Shin-mu was only 1 level weaker than them, and the gap could already be made up by Kong Shin-mu's means. When Kong Shin-mu broke through to the Reincarnation Tribulation Realm and reached the 2nd level in one go, his strength skyrocketed. If I fight against the Dragon Emperor of Great Liang, I may not be his opponent, but if I fight against the Dragon Emperor Yen, maybe the Dragon Emperor Yen can no longer suppress me. Kong Shin-mu was quite satisfied with his improvement. In addition, he also devoured and absorbed a lot of Dragon Mark energy this time, so that his Dragon Mark energy directly broke through from the level of the 9th level of the Dragon King. This was the side effect of the Phoenix Spirit Firestone. Because he was cultivating in Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Academy, when he gathered the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth, he would also absorb a part of the Dragon Mark energy. Of course, Kong Shin-mu devoured all of it. The Dragon Mark energy devoured in this way was the purest and flawless. If he could use more Phoenix Spirit Firestones, Kong Shin-mu could even directly break through to the level of the Dragon Emperor. Unfortunately, even if there were more Phoenix Spirit Firestones, he could not use them repeatedly within a month, otherwise, he would accumulate fire poison. This time, 1 Phoenix Spirit Firestone is equivalent to about a year of cultivation. It's really timely. Kong Shin-mu thought to himself, and his eyes flashed. This was the reward he received when he went to the battlefield of the 9 major races and killed a demon slave for the first time. In that case, if he could make greater contributions in the future battles and kill stronger clansmen of the 9 major races, wouldn't the reward be even more precious? Killing the clansmen of the 9 major clans and killing the servants of the 9 major clans were 2 completely different concepts. The protection points obtained would be 10 times more. As for the extra special reward given by the higher-ups, it would obviously be better than the Phoenix Spirit Firestone. As for what would be better than the Phoenix Spirit Firestone, Kong Shin-mu did not know. However, it was conceivable that once they could kill the clansmen of the 9 major races, it would be extremely beneficial for them. Unfortunately, this journey was too dangerous. Once the clansmen of the 9 major races appeared in person, it meant that the other party had the intention to kill him. This was the biggest crisis. Fortunately, I haven't used this Lingyun protection ring yet. Chapter 45-46. The defensive barrier condensed by the Lingyun protection ring could withstand up to the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor's attack. In other words, it was in line with the current restrictions on the battlefield of the 9 races. This Lingyun protection ring was exchanged with Linghu Dai after he killed a high-ranking devil general. It seemed like the exchange was too much of a coincidence. In other words, there definitely won't be anyone too strong on the battlefield within a year. The strongest attack of any opponent on the battlefield will be blocked by the Lingyun protection ring. As for the Lingyun protection ring, it can be used once every 7 days. It can absorb spiritual energy on its own. This heaven-grade dragon weapon is simply too comfortable. This Lingyun protection ring was useless for Linghu Dai but it was just right for Kong Xinmu. Now, Jiang Xinwu could completely rely on Lingyun's protective ring to run amok on the battlefield of the 9 great clans. If he encountered someone too strong, he could directly block Lingyun's protective ring and then escape with the wind shadow flowing flash. After using it once, the Lingyun protection ring could not be used again. It needed to absorb spiritual energy for 7 days before it could be used again. During this period, Kong Xinmu would return to the Longwu fortress and wait for the Lingyun protection ring to be used again. It seemed like this method was unique and foolproof. However, in reality, Kong Xinmu also thought of one thing. If it wasn't a servant of the 9 races, but a member of the 9 races, then he still had to be careful. Just like Xueqi, she would definitely have brought countless powerful weapons with her when she went out alone. If it was an expert using the heaven-grade Desolate God demonic weapon, the void-ripping void magic blade, then it was still possible to break through Kong Xinmu's Lingyun protection ring. He couldn't be careless. However, with the Lingyun protection ring, his safety was definitely guaranteed. After thinking about this, Kong Xinmu left his palace to meet up with Xiao Yuhua and the others. With the help of the Phoenix Spirit Fire Rock, Xiao Yuhua and the others had made great breakthroughs. Among them, Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai had always been at the front and had already reached the 4th level of the Rebirth Tribulation Realm. Ran Ran and Liang Xiao, like Kong Xinmu, were at the 3rd level of the Rebirth Tribulation Realm. After all, Kong Xinmu's efficiency in absorbing the heaven and earth spiritual qi condensed from the Phoenix Spirit Firestone was the highest. Therefore, he broke through 2 realms in one go and somewhat caught up. I have a hunch that the 5 of us will be able to enter the Heaven's Pivot District in the Academy competition next year. Liang Xiao was overjoyed. There are 9 places in the Heaven Pivot District, and our team will take 5? Xiao Yuhua, on the other hand, wasn't so optimistic. She shook her head and said, unless more than half of the 9 students in the Heaven Center District can reach the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor and become a mentor of the Dragon Emperor, we won't be able to enter the Heaven Center District so easily. There was nothing wrong with saying that. However, this year's Academy competition had just ended, and it was still too early to think about next year's Academy competition. This time, we spent 3 days absorbing the Phoenix Spirit Firestone and made some breakthroughs. It's about time for us to continue to the battlefield. Kong Xinmu said in a deep voice, let's go to the Dragon Martial Fortress first to understand the situation. In these 3 days, the first group of Dragon Martial practitioners who went out to explore should have returned. Everyone nodded in agreement. Ran Ran followed Kong Xinmu closely. Her figure was slim and alluring, especially when she was wearing a tight black dress, which showed off her exquisite figure. She whispered to Kong Xinmu, my Black Phoenix Heart Destruction has been cultivated to the Heaven stage. It was originally at the Dragon stage, but with the help of the Phoenix Spirit Firestone, I suddenly broke through. Kong Xinmu's face lit up when he heard that. That's good news. The Black Phoenix Heart Destruction seems to be related to the power of the Phoenix. I didn't expect the Phoenix Spirit Firestone to have such an effect. It's really amazing. In comparison, Kong Xinmu's progress in cultivating the Divine Dragon Tyrant Body Art and Sunset Shadow Flowing Flash was not as fast as Ran Ran. After all, he had been wandering around for the past year, and had not focused on cultivating these 2 high-grade Source Dragon martial techniques. Ran Ran, on the other hand, had focused on cultivating the Dark Phoenix Heart Exterminating technique, and in just a year, she had directly broken through to the Dragon Realm. Now, with the help of the Phoenix Spirit Firestone, She had broken through to the heaven stage. Once a high-grade source dragon martial skill was cultivated to the heaven stage, it was a qualitative leap. Coupled with Ran's Black Jade extreme breaker power, her lethality was probably on par with Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai. One had to know that when the two of them raised their lethality with all their might, they were already outstanding among their peers. It was already very impressive that Ran could be on par with them, even though she was one level lower in cultivation. I still have a rising dragon marrow, and I just consumed it. I'm just waiting for the Black Phoenix Heart Destruction to break through to the Saint stage. Then, my battle prowess will be even stronger, Ran continued. She saw that Kong Shinmu was happy, and she was happy too. However, as a woman, she could still keenly feel that after returning this time, Kong Shinmu seemed to be different from before. As for what exactly was different, she could not feel it. It was just that. She felt that Kong Shinmu's mind was not as focused as before. Sometimes it would be a little erratic. Could it be because of the demon god race princess? As for what happened between Kong Shinmu and Xueqi in the end, Kong Shinmu did not tell the others. After all, this was a personal matter, and there was no need to tell them. If this matter would affect them, Kong Shinmu would definitely tell them in advance. Therefore, Kong Shinmu did not find anything wrong with Ran. He nodded and said, "Keep it up. The situation is getting more and more serious. We must become stronger in order to have a foothold in such an environment." This was the truth. The five of them chatted as they walked toward the Emperor Shi formation. Along the way, they met an old acquaintance, White Scorpion Qian Bing. However, when she saw Kong Shinmu and the others, Qian Bing's face immediately turned pale. Then she turned and quickly ran away. This Qian Bing, why is she so afraid when she sees us? Kong Shinmu felt a little strange. Did something happen between you and her last year when I wasn't around? Xiao Yuhua looked at Qian Bing's fleeing figure and said with a faint smile, "Nothing happened. It's just that Qian Bing's team encountered us once in the Void Crack battlefield. She brought people and wanted to attack us, but we taught them a lesson." From then on, Qian Bing could only take a detour when she saw us. Her entire team combined could not break through Ran's defense. Haha. Chapter 45-47. No matter what, the matter with Qian Bing was over. Previously, when Kong Shinmu was not around, Qian Bing's group was beaten to a pulp. Now that Kong Shinmu was back, Qian Bing would definitely not dare to have any thoughts about Kong Shinmu's group. That was purely asking for trouble, and there was no chance of winning. Even if they launched a sneak attack during the battle, Qian Bing's group would not be able to do anything to Kong Shinmu, Ran, and the others, as they were simply too weak. Their strength was too weak. Even if Kong Shinmu stood there and let her hit him, she would not be able to injure Kong Shinmu, let alone kill Kong Shinmu. As time passed, the overall strength of Kong Shinmu's group of 5 improved faster and faster. Compared to many other student groups in the 4 major dragon martial academies, it could be said that their group improved the fastest. Originally, they were only students in the Yuhing district, and Liang Xiao and Ran had only joined the Dragon Martial Academy not long ago. Now, they had already stepped into the Tianxian district. It had only been a total of 2 years, and it could be said to be a great miracle. No one would believe it even if they said it. Originally, Xiao Yuhua and Xiao Bai only had the Dragon King's inherited blood essence, and they were at the 8th and 9th levels of the Nirvana Tribulation Realm. Now they had the Dragon Emperor's 2nd level of inherited blood essence, and they were at the 4th level of the Samsara Tribulation Realm. Their strength had increased by at least 10 times. The 5 arrived at the Emperor Shi formation, and they traveled through space. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the Martial Dragon Fortress. After returning to the Martial Dragon Fortress after 3 days, the 5 of them could already feel an extremely tense atmosphere. This atmosphere permeated the entire Martial Dragon Fortress, making everyone feel extremely stifled. What's going on? Kong Shinmu and the others exchanged glances, frowning. It seemed like something extraordinary had happened in the past 3 days, causing the atmosphere in the entire Martial Dragon Fortress to become tense and silent. The war is about to begin. Vaguely, Kong Shinmu seemed to hear people shouting around him. All along the way, he saw even more Dragon Emperor realm experts looking for companions, and they seemed to intend to head to the battlefield to fight their enemies. Some were gloomy, whereas some were burning with battle intent, and they seemed to be two extremes. Kong Shinmu was used to this kind of situation. He thought that it must be because the first batch of dragon warriors had sent out some bad news, which was why they were in such a situation. Look, it's Kong Shinmu. Kong Shinmu and his team are the first to return from the battlefield. Moreover, they seem to have killed 5 demon gods. That's right, they did kill the demon slave and even obtained a special reward. Their cultivation realm seems to have increased by at least 1 level. It seems that the special reward this time is indeed extraordinary. Many people gathered around. Most of these people were Dragon King powerhouses. They were either students from the 4 Dragon Martial Academies or the Dragon Emperor country's Dragon Emperor powerhouses who had brought the Dragon King generals, marshals, and so on. In their eyes, Kong Shinmu was also an extremely powerful existence. Even a powerhouse at the Dragon Emperor level would not dare to say that they could easily defeat Kong Shinmu's team. It should be noted that even Great Liang's Dragon Emperor had now said that if he were to face Kong Shinmu's team of 5, it would be difficult to win. It should be noted that Great Liang's Dragon Emperor was now a powerhouse at the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor list. His combat power had long reached the level of the original Dragon Emperor mentor. On the Dragon Emperor list of the Dragon Martial Fortress, he was ranked in the top 100. Speaking of the Dragon Emperor list, it was a formidable list. It was a list of the combat power of all the Dragon Emperors in the Dragon Martial continent, including the 4 Dragon Martial Academy's Dragon Emperor mentors, as well as the recently rising Dragon Emperor powerhouses. Great Liang's Dragon Emperor was ranked 97th on the Dragon Emperor list. This was already a terrifying strength. It should be noted that there were dozens of Dragon Emperor mentors in the 4 Dragon Martial Academies. The original Dragon Emperor mentors, as well as many genius students who had broken through to the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor list in the past 2 years, added together, there were already more than 100 of them. In other words, Great Liang's Dragon Emperor's strength was now enough to be a mentor in the Dragon Martial Academy. Many of the mentors in the 4 Dragon Martial Academies were not as strong as Great Liang's Dragon Emperor. Originally, Kong Shinmu did not pay much attention to the Dragon Emperor list. After all, he was too far away from the Dragon Emperor list, and he could not even reach the bottom of the list. But now, he could pay some attention to it. After all, Kong Shinmu was about to break through to the Dragon Emperor level of inheritance blood. Most importantly, as his cultivation level reached the 2nd level of the Rebirth Tribulation realm, his combat power was already comparable to many Dragon Emperor level powerhouses. In everyone's eyes, even Great Liang's Dragon Emperor, who was on the Dragon Emperor list, would find it difficult to defeat Kong Shinmu's team and would need to spend some effort. Not to mention the others. It could be seen that the overall combat power of Kong Shinmu's team was already extremely strong, even reaching the level of the Dragon Emperor list. Not to mention, the 5 people in Kong Shinmu's team had all increased their cultivation level by at least 1 level. In this regard, Kong Shinmu and the others naturally had a sense of propriety. Great Liang's Dragon Emperor said that just to prevent some powerhouses from targeting Kong Shinmu's team. In fact, if Kong Shinmu's team fought against Great Liang's Dragon Emperor, they would basically be defeated one by one, without any possibility of struggling. Even Kong Shinmu might not be able to block the opponent's attack. This was the strength of the powerhouses on the Dragon Emperor list. Of course, the current Dragon Emperor list represented the peak combat power of the Dragon Martial continent. It was definitely not so easy to get on the Dragon Emperor list. Kong Shinmu was well aware that he was at least 3 years away from the bottom of the Dragon Emperor list, and this was under the circumstance that he used the Phoenix Spirit Firestone to save a year of cultivation time. I must get on the Dragon Emperor list within a year. Otherwise, after a year, the battlefield will be fully opened, and the 9 major races will send out powerhouses who have reached the 5th level of the Dragon Emperor list. At that time, it will be the real tragic time. If I can't get on the Dragon Emperor list within a year, then the full-scale battlefield after a year will have nothing to do with me, and I can only run away with my tail between my legs. Kong Shinmu thought in his heart, and his understanding of this was very clear. How difficult was it to get on the Dragon Emperor list within a year? But for Kong Shinmu, it was not impossible. The key was to see how many Guardian points he could earn in the battlefield of the 9 major races within a year. As long as everything went well, then he might really be able to get on the Dragon Emperor list within a year and become a powerhouse on the Dragon Emperor list. For the time being, the matter of the Dragon Emperor list was put on hold. Kong Shinmu said to the 4 of them, "Let's go to the office of Emperor Shi's Dragon Martial Arts Academy first to understand the situation." Chapter 45-48. Longwu Fortress, Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Academy Office. Kong Xinmu rushed over with 4 people and found many students gathered in the office. It seems like the situation is really tense now. Kong Xinmu frowned slightly. He saw 9th Young Master Gu and Young Master Liang from the Hidden Dragon Martial Artist family in the crowd. They were frowning and seemed to be at their wits' end. Both of them were in the 2nd tier of the reincarnation realm. As for the grade of the Divine Dragon Essence, they had not reached the level of the Dragon Emperor. They were still stuck at the 9th level of the Dragon King, unable to break through. This made them very uncomfortable. Originally, they came from the Hidden Dragon Martial Artist family and had a lot of cultivation resources in their family. However, after coming to Emperor Xi's Dragon Martial Academy, they did not go to the Void Crack battlefield to fight. As a result, their progress was not as fast as the other ordinary students who desperately hunted demonic creatures. Their family had a lot of resources, but how could it compare to the Supreme Divine Dragon's investment in the Dragon Martial Continent in the past 2 years? Therefore, 9th Young Master Gu and Young Master Liang were feeling very uncomfortable now. They had not reached the level of the Dragon Emperor, so their combat strength was low. Going to the battlefield of the 9 races was simply courting death. After thinking about it, there was only one way, and that was to form a group with other students and go to the battlefield of the 9 races. Unfortunately, the battlefield of the 9 races was full of danger. It was even more difficult to hunt opponents and earn guardian points. With their strength, they could basically be declared eliminated. Unless there was a powerful dragon weapon forged by an expert in their family that could protect their lives, they would not be qualified to go to the battlefield. Moreover, even if they could protect their lives, it would be difficult for them to hunt opponents of the 9 races. Even if they were just slaves, there would be existences that were much stronger than them. It could be said that if they encountered opponents on the battlefield of the 9 races, there was a 90% chance that they would not be able to defeat them. Then there was no need to go. And this was the current situation of most students in the Yuhing district in the 4 Dragon Martial Academies. The Migres district, which was above the Yuhing district, was slightly better. Their strength was much stronger than the students in the Yuhing district. At the very least, they had inherited blood essence that had reached the level of the Dragon Emperor. If they formed a group, they would still be able to survive on the battlefield of the 9 races. Some who were skilled in special methods could even send messages to earn guardian points. Killing opponents wasn't the only way to earn guardian points. If they could discover some important information about the 9 great races and send it back, it would be very valuable. These kinds of scouts and patrollers were quite popular in the current Dragon Martial Continent. As a result, many people began to cultivate movement techniques and concealment-type Origin Dragon martial skills. Regardless of whether it was too late to cultivate these Origin Dragon martial skills, there wouldn't be any harm in cultivating these Dragon martial skills. Young Master Gu Jiao, Young Master Liang. I remember that they are interested in Ran Ran? Kong Xinmu narrowed his eyes. When he saw these 2 fellows, he raised his eyebrows slightly. Obviously, he did not intend to give them any face. The Hidden Dragon Martial Artist clans have sent many mid-level experts to the Longwu Fortress recently. There are a total of 16 Hidden Dragon Martial Artist clans, and their experts combined are not weak. Xiao Yuhua reminded Kong Xinmu from behind. These 16 Hidden Dragon Martial Artist clans have many experts in their clans, and some even used to have super dragon ancestors. They are rich in resources. Now, the leaders of their clans are at least level 5 experts on the Dragon Emperor list, and there are even living super dragons. The current Dragon Monarch leaderboard does not include these 16 secluded Dragon Warrior clans. But now that the experts of these 16 Hidden Dragon Martial Artist clans have come to the Longwu Fortress, I'm afraid that most of the faces on the Dragon Emperor list will change very soon. Xiao Yuhua said all this to remind Kong Xinmu not to provoke Young Master Gu Jiao and Young Master Liang. These 2 were the talented descendants of the Gu family and Liang family, and were highly valued. The Hidden Dragon Martial Artist clans had already advised these 2 fellows to fight in the Void Crack battlefield, but they did not listen and missed the best opportunity to improve themselves. They were really afraid of death, but now that the entire Dragon Martial Continent had reached a critical moment of life and death, no matter how afraid they were of death, they had no choice but to stand up. Only one's own strength was the most fundamental thing. Other than that, everything else was fabricated. I heard that some of the experts from the Hidden Dragon Martial Artist clans have participated in the Void Beast hunt, but they rarely interact with others. They have their own circle, and even maintained some contact with the peerless divine dragon. Kong Shinmu narrowed his eyes. Fine, now is the time for the dragon martial artists to unite. I can't be bothered to find trouble with them. After saying this, he led Xiao Yuhua and the others to the corridor of the office, planning to find Ling Hu Dai-er. Ling Hu Dai-er was the Dragon Emperor instructor that Kong Shinmu had met at the Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy, and they had a pretty good relationship. Other than her, there was Dean Yuyaji. As for the other Dragon Emperor instructors, Kong Shinmu was not familiar with them. He did not even know them when he saw them. Along the way, many dragon martial artist clans made way for Kong Shinmu when they saw him and his people. Young Master Gu Jiu and Young Master Liang had been waiting for them. But when they saw Kong Shinmu and Ran Ran coming over, their expressions changed again and again. If it were their old selves, they might have stood up to mock Kong Shinmu and put in some good words for Ran Ran. Unfortunately, in the face of life and death, Kong Shinmu did not seem so despicable in their eyes. Instead, they felt closer to him. The 9 invading clans were too hateful. They really wanted to kill all the rebels of the Dragon Martial Continent and enslave the entire Dragon Martial Continent. In comparison, when they looked at Kong Shinmu, they felt that he was handsome. After all, he was a member of the Dragon Martial Continent like them. Therefore, when they saw Kong Shinmu, Ran Ran, and the others walk past, young Master Gu Jiu and young Master Liang did not say anything. They were so flustered that they did not dare to offend anyone. They had changed their arrogant and despotic attitude when they first arrived at Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy. Emperor Shi Dragon Martial Academy's office had a better atmosphere than the Dragon Martial Fortress outside. The atmosphere was not as heavy, but one could still feel the tension. The war is about to begin. A crisp female voice came from a room deep in the office's corridor. It was Ling Hu Dai-er. She sensed the arrival of Kong Shinmu and his people. Her voice came from the room. Kong Shinmu, come in with all of you. Yesterday, the first batch of 10 groups that went out to test the waters all returned. In the end, 3 groups all died, and 4 groups of dragon martial artists were seriously injured. Only your group and the other 2 groups killed their opponents and returned safely. This time, a total of 7 people died. It has only been 3 days. Therefore, the situation in the Dragon Martial Fortress is very critical. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.